Hello, everybody. Future Powerlifting. Today we are going to go over our top 10 lifters for 2024, our open lifters. We are going to do the men and the females. We got some great guests on today. We got Matt Gary, 2024 USA team coach. We got Marcellus Williams, coach of multiple world champions. We got Sebastian, one of the more controversial people on Instagram, but he's a massive meet director in Illinois and trying to grow the sport. And then we got Big Body, flex coach and coach of junior world champion Austin Nikolai. So the format is going to be, we are going to start with the women's. We are going to go from 10 to 1, ranking our top lifters. We are going to discuss each of the lifters. Every lifter on these lists are phenomenal lifters, whether they're ranked 1, 10, or not even mentioned, of course, on certain people's lists. So we'll go through them all, and we will start 10 to 1. We'll women first, men first, and I guess we'll just jump straight into it. So I will start, I guess. So I'll start with my number 10 lifter. My number 10 female lifter for 2024 is Jessica Espanol. She's a phenomenal lifter, 47 kilo lifter from the US. She recently broke the open world record total with a 433.5 kilo total. That record had been Tiffany Chapone's for the last few years. She had kept breaking it. She had a tough battle at Worlds with Tiffany. She missed some benches on some commands. Bench steps, whatever they were calling. So she ended up having to take like a Hail Mary pull for the win. So it looked a little bit less close than it was in reality in terms of strength. But she came back and broke the record at Junior World. And I think she is now pretty even in terms of strength. And we'll get to see going forward probably the best 47 battles we've ever seen. So that's my number 10 lifter. Matt, we'll go to you.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because that's exactly who I have as my number 10 as well. For all the same reasons that you said, Mike. Placing second at Worlds, on the I don't want to say the wrong end, but just had some unfortunate breaks of Worlds and so forth, and then came out and show improved at Junior Worlds and then hit the open world record total. So yeah, puts her in a prime position to lock horns with Tiffany once again. And now, like you said, kind of sets the stage for what we anticipate as being, potentially the greatest 47 kilo battle that we've ever seen. So yeah, I had Jess as my number 10 as well.
Okay. I have some questions for you because I discussed with a lot of people. What were your thoughts on her not getting that wild card spot? Like not the regular one, like the fill-in wild card spot for Sheffield? Because after breaking she was the only lifter at any of the other internationals to break a world record total, and I think it would have been a perfect replacement spot. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, being right, the homer in me says, yeah, let's throw in another American, right? And I love Jess, and I've coached Jess, and I have a great relationship with her and her coach Jason Tremblay and so forth. So yeah, from that perspective, the homer in me says, yeah, let's throw another American in there and have her go head to head with Tiff, because this is a battle that we like to see. Then if you can just kind of set that aside and compartmentalize it, you say to yourself, well, adding Alba into the mix, right? That creates this three-way battle, with Meg and Leah and so forth. And it's like, would you rather see three people going against each other, or would you rather see two, head to heads? And so I guess, Alba could stake her claim as well, just because, she came in fourth at Worlds, and then she goes to Junior Worlds and sets the world on fire, completely knocks it out of the park. Dominates the competition, out totals pretty much everybody except the 84 pluses. And so there was a strong case for her as well. So it's, I don't know, it becomes this flip a coin moment. You know what I mean? And I don't think any of us are privy to some of the exact details of these behind the closed doors decisions that SBD makes. But I'm not necessarily saying you can go wrong with either pick. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Can I be controversial already?
Go.
She committed the cardinal sin of being American. Like, it literally has nothing to do with anything other than that. She holds the world record. Like, She's American. There's too many Americans. That's what it is.
That's part of it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Matt's being good. Matt's being well behaved, but I won't be. She's American. She didn't get in. Same thing happened to Gavin. It's the same game. And it makes sense. I mean, you want to draw viewership from different parts. That Americans are going to be watching whether or not Jessica's there. So it's bringing in another Swede is not, it makes sense from that perspective.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, Marcel, who do you got?
So I want to start off by saying originally when I made my list for both, it was very like objective and database and stuff like that. But then I was like, man, that's boring. And I feel like if I do that, my list is going to be very similar to Matt's. And I was right because that was originally my number 10 as well, because I was going based off that. I was like, that's not fun. So I changed it up. So for my number 10, I have one second, let me pull up for you. Make sure everything right. Oh yeah, so for my number 10, I have Bobby Butters, second place in the 57 kg class. Of course she hit some world records there as well. And yeah, she did place second to Jade, who's also on my list, and we'll get to that later. But for me, a large part of it, like so I'm having a little more fun with it and being a little more subjective, but it's the energy that she brings to the platform and how entertaining she is to watch, and the fact that in my mind she had room left on the day as well. Like I feel like a lot of it was them coming in, like, okay, we want to hit specific records, hit specific numbers, and hey, Jade is, she's all the way up here, so let's not necessarily reach for that, but let's just have a good day. But I think she was capable of far more on the day. And it seems to me, like from what I've been seeing, like with her training and the progress she's making, that she's going to continue to be a force in the class. So that was my number 10. And also the fact that I just did not want to be the exact same as everybody else. And I figured that y'all would have. I'm going to be curious because I still have my old list. And I'm going to be very curious to see if my old list ends up being the same as Matt's if I was going based off the data. So we'll see.
I know. Are you trying to say that I'm just boring, Marcellus?
No, I'm saying you're objective. You're so objective.
I know, exactly.
And that's how I usually am for these shows too. But I was like, man, I decided my only main objective measure is they had to have actually compete on the platform for the year. And then the rest, I'm like, I'm just gonna go with what I like and what I enjoy. So just make it a little bit more fun and show a different side of myself too. So I'm usually very numbers based and all that kind of stuff. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely more entertaining that way, for sure. and also it's a good pick because Bobby is like one of the most entertaining lifters I've ever gotten the pleasure to see.
She's crazy, bro. I love it's so funny because if you talk to her, she's so calm and mild mannered and relaxed. But on the platform, it's like, yo, she is going to kill somebody. It's awesome.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, Sebastian, who do you got?
So I have at number 10, I have Corola Gar, just for the simple fact that. So hold on. Let me preface. Much like Marcellus, I just made the women's side is so chalky that I'm just like, okay, I have to. So I kind of did it based on like lifters I'd like to watch, and she just doesn't do it for me. But she needs to be on the list somewhere because she was a world champion and she's ranked 6th overall by GL. So I just had to put her somewhere, and so she's number 10.
Okay, I mean that's definitely an interesting pick. Not an interesting pick to be in your top 10. An interesting spot in your top 10. But
agreed. Yeah,
for sure.
I have her so much higher.
Yeah,
but I want to hear.
I don't disagree with the fact that she could be higher if you were ranking this objectively, but I'm not. So
fair enough.
I love how you, in the introduction, you literally said, yeah, our most controversial guest, and just the gate is number 10.
Dude.
I was waiting for him to like say somebody in his top 10 like that. I looked at way more than 10 lifters, obviously. And I was waiting for him to say somebody that like never even crossed my mind to like look at it. It'd be like somebody that's like somebody and like I look down, it's like they're like ranked like 487th. That's what I was waiting for.
No, the men's side is where I go off the rails a little. So don't. So like I said, the women's side is chalk, and then I just shook it up a little.
Yeah, I will say my women's side is probably far more reasonable than my men's side. My men's side is going to be fun.
Yeah, I think the men's side was harder. I mean, for me, the women's side, I just had to like order it. But like other than ordering it, I basically had my 10 lifters pretty simply. Big body.
You guys are gonna hate me. I'm gonna put your listeners to sleep.
Nah, listen, being objective is I was basically objective. Of course, I changed some things a little bit, but like I looked at data. Like I wasn't gonna make my list up from nothing.
Yep.
Big guy, who do you got at 10?
I'm gonna run with Alba. I vividly remember her open worlds performance, coming in fourth as a junior, and I was always aware of her, and just taking note of her within our team, and to see her come back and see in person live, watching the performance of how she improved her squat quite significantly within a short time frame. Same deal with her bench, and then came back and attacked that 501 pound deadlift, 227.5 kg deadlift. It was just an excellent day. She came back with like supreme execution, improved greatly. What was it? I think 3 keys away from the open world record. Pretty close to it at Junior Worlds. She even improved her GL quite significantly. She finished off with a 121.39 GL. So I think, like, first of all, to make it in the top 10 list in the open, I think it's incredibly hard. But to do that as a junior, and just to make the improvement that she did in the time frame that she did, it stood out for me personally. So I'm going to run with Alba at number 10 for the open women's list.
Okay, that's definitely a fair pick. I mean, I personally didn't have her on my list just because of the criteria I made, but like, I mean, she's top 10 in like dots and GL. I mean, she's like near one of the few lifters near 600 dots. She definitely can't argue with that pick. That's for sure. So, okay, so I'll go to
Mike, can I jump in for just 1 second? Because I just want to say one thing, which I think is going to frame a lot of the way that I've made my picks, and then I'm going to shut up and let you guys do most of the talking. But I think so. What I just wanted to say is this is sports talk, right? This is sports debate, and most of the time, sports debate is subjective. It's on feelings and emotions. And Marcellus knows me; he knows me well, and I prefer to tackle these discussions with objective metrics, data, rational, logical thought. So if I ask the four of you, right, what are the 2 primary goals of most drug-tested elite level lifters? What are their 2 primary goals? What are your answers going to be? They're 2 chief goals of an elite level drug-tested lifter, and that's who we're talking about, right?
I would say world champion and then world record.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay,
I would say some of them want to make money.
All right, here.
Okay, hold on. Let me frame this. Would you rather win $40,000 or be a world champion?
Okay, fair enough. All right, fair
That's
enough.
fair.
And
That's
Chris, what's your answer? Chris, what do you think?
Can I have more answers? I have more. I think it's all of those. Sebastian and we've talked quite a bit about it, but like, I think there's nothing for the love of the sport that goes over the value of winning.
Right.
That's just me.
Yep.
Hey, Matt, you and I come from football, and we know that in sports, like, that's the pinnacle, right? If you talk about the NFL, it's the Super Bowl, right? The love of the game. There's nothing bigger than that. And the honor within powerlifting to make it to something like a Sheffield or a world level, it's so hard to do it, right? So for me, I was like, I don't even know how. Like, I get it in the sport when people talk about coefficients and performances and all that, which you're going to have a great performance if you're to make it to the world level, right? And to win the world level. So that's a given. But I think number 1 would be championships. And then, I don't know, based off what we're talking about now, I want to see our athletes start to get paid. So with Sebastian, I think
we had a lengthy discussion last night about this.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's my call.
I think performance comes with the championships, right? Like, you're not going to win. Even when Chance Mitchell, you can argue that he didn't execute well. He did what it took to still get that nasty win, right?
That's right.
So you couldn't really say like, yeah, he totaled really well enough to win, but execution wise, you can make another argument he didn't perform at his best, but he still won. He won a championship. So, I mean, yeah, I go with championships, and I go with I want to see our athletes get paid.
Okay, so if I can reinsert myself in real quick, I promise, Mike, this won't take long. I think we can all agree because everybody said world championship, right? So we value world championship. Sebastian said money. Marcellus mentioned world records. So Sheffield encompasses those two things. So for me, the answer is most elite level lifters who are drug tested want to win a world championship and they want to qualify for Sheffield. Because if they qualify for Sheffield, right, they get an opportunity to win money, which you all said, make money, get paid. And they have an opportunity, presumably, to break world records, right? Or they're not going to be invited if they can't break a world record. So if we can all agree, just for a second.
Well, I mean, they get automatically invited if they win worlds. So,
correct.
Which, if you sacrifice the world record to win worlds, by making different attempts.
Right. But you're not even invited if you're not somebody who's capable, right? So my point is, if we can all agree just for a second that it's to win worlds and at least qualify for Sheffield, right? So if those are the two, so for me,
right.
If becoming a world champion and qualifying for Sheffield are the two primary goals, then how can we legitimately consider anybody who does not compete at either one of those meets to be one of the top 10 best lifters of the year? Do you follow what I'm saying?
You couldn't even make my top 5 if you did the world.
Exactly.
You can't. That's objectively what we agree. Yes,
that's right. So my list is going to be really boring. But if you didn't compete at Sheffield or Worlds, you ain't even on the list. There's no chance. No chance.
I think that's pretty fair. I think that's pretty fair.
Right. So I've created this objective metric, this bar that you need to clear. And if you haven't cleared that hurdle, I'm sorry, you're not even in the conversation.
Yeah.
Respectfully. It's not saying you're not a good lifter. It's not saying you're not capable. And, this is not, what we're prognosticating to happen this year, next year, whatever. It's, did you do that in 24? Yes or no? No? Okay, see you later. You're out of the conversation. So anyway, I just want to say that because that's how my list is about to roll. And that's why Alba Bostrom, to your point, Chris, for me was number 11. I had her just out.
That's fair.
That's why I had her at number 11. But anyway, I'm gonna let you guys go. And then Mike, that's why it's going to make sense when you see my list. Then you're going to be like, this is exactly why he ranked them the way that he did.
So that actually makes sense. Also, it's good to understand people's rank, how they do the rankings. Because people were commenting on the post, and I'm like, I responded. I'm like, if you watch the video, it was about one of Big Body's rankings, and I'm like, if you watch the video, he clearly explains how he came up with that ranking. So I have the same thing on the women's side as you do. On the men's side, mine is different. So
I know,
the men's side, I'm sure we'll have a much different list. But on the women's side, I had the same criteria.
Yep.
So moving on to number 9. At number 9, I had Tiffany Chapone. She won the 47 World Championship this year. She broke the world record multiple times. First, she broke it at Sheffield. Then she rebroke it at Worlds. I believe she did. What was it? It was 433 kilos at Worlds and 431.5 at Sheffield. She is a phenomenal lifter that I don't think gets talked about enough. We mentioned this the other day. We were talking about how she just won her 4th Open World Championship as a junior, which is just absolutely incredible. I don't think anyone else has ever done that. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but I think 4 as a junior, no one has ever done. She has the squat world record. She has the bench world record. She had the total world record. The only thing holding her back is just formulas a little bit, which just in powerlifting, obviously formulas are not perfect. We know that for sure. They're not perfect. They're just a tool. And they tend to make it difficult for the lightest and the heaviest lifters. So it just hurts it a little bit. But I don't fully care about formulas. The reason I'm a little bit more penalized is not the formulas itself. I just think the 47s are not yet where they will be. I think over the next couple of years, we'll see those numbers go up a lot. They have been making jumps, sub 400 was winning a couple of years ago. Heather won with in the 390s, 380s. And now we're talking 430s. But I still think the 47s have a little bit of room. I think we'll probably see 450 in the next few years out of 47. So that's why I have at number 9.
Are we going in the same order or are we going to switch it up, Mike?
I think we could go in the same order.
All right. So for my number 9, I had Leah Bavwa. And it's quite simple because she came in second at Sheffield with the 9 for 9 performance. And then she came in second at Worlds. So just like Jess came in second at Worlds, but then she was first at Junior Worlds and had the open world record total. And to me, that ranked Jess below Leah because Leah went to Sheffield and Worlds. And again, so it's just objective data for me. She knocked it out of the park. She had a phenomenal performance at Sheffield. She went 9 for 9. She only got beaten by Agatha, who I think is likely going to be at the top of almost everybody's list, right? And then she comes second at Worlds on an off day. And so for me, it's Leah Bavwa, number 9.
Okay. I will have her slightly different position, but you explained exactly how.
It's all going to make sense. Like my next person, you're going to be like, oh, yep, that makes total sense based on his system, right? It's just
boo logic. Boo.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep.
Okay, Marcellus, what do you got?
So first of all, I just want to say that so far with my OG list, before I reworked it, I'm still locked in with Matt, so I'm keeping that in mind. But I ended up for my number 9 going with Natalie Richards. Reason being is because of course, her performance at Sheffield. Thought that was excellent. Even with the miss on that final deadlift, which was so very close, just where she was relatively, and then also where she was projected to be, just looking at like the amount of progress she makes every training cycle, where she was projected to be before her injury and going into Worlds. I feel like I want to have her on the list because of what I felt she potentially could have done and would have done, especially seeing where the other 57s ended up. For me, it didn't feel right to not have her on the list at all, even though she didn't get to go to Worlds, especially because of her Sheffield performance, and then the previous Worlds before that, even though obviously that was for 2023. So,
is anyone remotely close to her?
No, not really. Like that's not the reason why I had her too. It's like the dominance. That's something that I look at as well. It's like she didn't have to even compete at nationals. Like her spot was for sure secure. No one was worried about, oh, what if someone comes in and it gets close? Like there was no discussion like that at all. Like it was this world spots was hers. So
you were asking that on the American side, right? Is that Sebastian? Was that you who asked the question?
Yes.
Yeah. On the American side, there's nobody.
On the American side, there's nobody. Yeah, internationally, obviously, it's different. On the American side, it's not. It's not even close.
It's just her. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I didn't include her on my list either. It's so hard. There's only 10 spots, and with me, like she only did that one meet, which was Sheffield, and with her not with Jod beating her at Sheffield, and then her not like having another chance to either like come back at Worlds or even like any other meet. Like to me, like with the list of like just world champions and whatever, I don't think she couldn't make my top 10. But obviously, she's phenomenal, and last year she would have been on the top half of my top 10. That's for sure.
Yeah, and objectively, she probably wouldn't be. But once again, I'm going a different direction.
Well, even objectively, she's top 10 in every single formula. She's top 10 DOT, top 10 GL, top 10. So, like, even objectively, you definitely could put
she's
her
a top 10 lifter, period. It like for this year, performance-wise, there's argument against it, but in terms of just period, and even for just the year, based upon GLP dots, easily. So,
for sure.
Yep.
Sebastian?
I have Leah Bavwa. And I'm just going to follow Matt's. I mean,
see, Sebastian, we can agree on some things.
Yes. Matt, me and Matt don't disagree on much.
No, I know. It's all good.
Maybe in the men's. I guess also, like, if you're French, you're getting a -1 for me anyway, just because. The French.
This guy. Oh, man.
Shout out Team France. We love you.
They already got the Olympics. They got the Olympics this year. They're fine. They don't need an extra ranking from me.
They're not going to like you, man.
Oh, no. The French don't like me. Oh.
This guy.
Listen, Sebastian thinks the Americans should run all powerlifting, so he doesn't really care.
Yeah.
We too busy running all the rest of the other major sports. We don't need powerlifting.
Fair enough. Oh man.
Big Body, what do you think?
I have Espanol at 9th. Again, the two impactful juniors, and I guess recency bias because seeing them in person. I think Leah is a phenomenal lifter. She's not going to be on my list for this year. I think she had incredible stats to put up this year. She had a great performance at Sheffield for all the reasons that everyone spoke on. One of the things is just, again, for me, it's the value of coming back, fixing your corrections, or making your corrections, fixing your mistakes, and coming back to Junior Worlds for Espanol. And if you want to hear, I mean, we went, I'm not going to go too deep on Espanol because we talked about her a lot on the junior top 10 list. So, I mean, I'll just run her numbers super quick again. It's a 47 kg in the junior class. She put up a 150 squat, 97.5 bench, and a junior world record deadlift, I believe, 186, and then 433.5, which is a world record in the open, and 121.07 GL. Phenomenal performance. She really stuck out for me. So I have her at 9th because not only did she win, but she, Alba was not able to break the open world record and Espanol was. And both of those, you can make the argument to interchange either of them for 9th and 10th, at least on my list. So yeah, I'm running with Jessica Espanol for my number 9th spot.
Okay. So for number 8, I have Megan Scanland. She won worlds in the 63s. She totaled 552.5, like about 5 kilos below the world record. I dropped her a little bit just because most of these other people, aside from winning worlds, like also like broke the world record this year, either at Worlds or at Sheffield, and she didn't. So that took her down a little bit. But she followed up with she did a local meet recently where she totaled, I think it was 562.5. So that's above the world record. And I mean, I'm not going to count any gym lifts or anything like that because that's irrelevant. But her prep's looking great for Sheffield, and I have no doubt that she will break the world record come Sheffield. But for 2024 alone, definitely a top 10 lifter, and I think 8 is about the right place for her.
Yep, and that's you're inside my head. That's exactly where I had her. Right, it's number 8. Right, she beat Celine Crum at Nationals. That was a really good, solid battle. She's going to have to do battle with her again this year. Right? I don't.
Weight class.
Wait, is Celine going back to 63?
Wait a second. Celine will be.
She's 69 now.
Yeah, she's a 69.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so I misspoke.
That's going to be epic. That's going to be like a 4-way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But her performance at Worlds. So I literally could have flipped Meg and Leah. That could have gone either way. But the reason that I put Meg or above Leah is because she won Worlds. So again, it comes back to this objective thing. She didn't compete at Sheffield this year, but the fact that she is an IPF world champion, that for me ranks above, lifting at Sheffield and coming in second at Worlds. So yeah, I have Meg Scanland as my number 8.
Okay. Marcel.
I have 52 kg champ Eevee Corgan. Like I said, I'm trying to keep everything brief because I'm trying to get through, not get too long-winded with it. But I mean, Sheffield performance was incredible, obviously. Won worlds, and it's not just that she won, but it's like dominated once again, like super huge gap. I think going into all the other 52s, their goals were pretty much just trying to make it to World Games. I don't think any of them had a feeling they were going to actually get first. So she dominated in that regard. I think she also kind of paved the way for a lot of what lifters are doing now in general, as far as like, oh, hey, you know what? I am going to cut down and be able to maybe maintain strength or even be better than what I was before. And I think there's a lot of merit to that with not just females, but also what a lot of male lifters are now doing. As well as the fact that I love that she's like to just as a sleeper build, like I would never assume she lifts what she lifts just looking at her. Like it doesn't make sense. like I've always kind of thought that, but then I was like, okay, you know what? At Worlds, I'm gonna see her in person and be like, oh no, it makes more sense. It made less sense. I saw her and I'm just like, how is she doing this? It doesn't make sense. Like it's ridiculous. So
okay. Sebastian?
Number 8, I have Tiffany Chapone. She would definitely be ranked higher if Natalie was around to like push her at Worlds. Also French, so she would.
Natalie?
No,
you
Tiffany.
know,
Tiffany
No,
Chapone.
you said if Natalie was around, sure at World.
Oh, did I? No. Wrong weight class.
Yeah, okay. Making sure I wasn't missing.
Yeah, if Jessica had been 100.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Big body, what do you got?
Number 8 spot, I have Eevee Corgan as well. Some other things that I'll just kind of bounce off of what Marcellus said. For a 52 kg lifter to be squatting 170, benching 107.5, and deadlifting, she recorded 200 and attempted 205 and totaled 477.5. I mean, like, if you, for the Americans, like, I'm not going to sit down here and translate that into pounds, but like, just know, like, that she's almost squatting 3 times, or she's almost squatting 3 times her body weight. It's insane. And also, like, obviously this is for 2024, but she is a former Sheffield champion, and she did, again, I'll mimic off of what Marcella said, there were some sentiments about weight cutting and just how more dynamic you could be with that strategy, and how she came into Sheffield, and when she lost weight and still maintained that amount of strength, and I believe even got a little stronger, and came and just knocked it out the park. And then coming into this year and maintained her supremacy in that class. I mean, I just have great respect for that. It's not an easy thing to do. It's, I don't even know. Can anyone run the stats on how many? What was this, or 2024's championship? That was a consecutive, correct?
What?
For the championship, how many championships has she racked up after 2024?
2.
Yeah, so she's back to back, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So another thing that's heavy on my list is, like, in this year, you continued your success. In this year, you maintained standing on top of the mountain in that class. And if you can do that within a year, that's just an incredibly, within the next year, that's just an incredibly impactful aspect within my criteria. So not only winning Sheffield from the past, coming in again and getting her second championship in the 52s, the performance she put up, she went 8 for 9. And I'll just lastly say, she doesn't, I agree, she does not even look like she can do what she does. Like, when I was at Sheffy and I'm in the elevator and I'm with my wife and we're just standing there, and she was so polite, and I heard this little voice, and she was like, what room are you guys going to? And I was like, oh, I'm going to floor 10. And I kind of look, I'm like, who is that? And I look, and I'm like, oh, it's a little woman. And then I retake, and I'm like, that's Eevee Corgan. And I'm like, with clothes on, she just looks like a normal citizen, right? But then you see her come into her, like, her super suit, and she's competing. It's just like, damn, like, she's jacked. She's super duper lightweight. She's just incredibly impressive. So I have Eevee Corgan at number 8.
I just want to say real quick, some people will say, like, oh, but that doesn't that is cool. I don't care what you say. That is a cool factor. Like, that matters to me. Like, if I'm being super subjective, because once again, it's funny because I'll get to it. My number 7 is actually who Matt had as number 8. That was my number 8, but then when I made it more subjective, because it is that factor to me is so cool, because it's like, if you see somebody like, if you see big body, right? Like, obviously it's like, oh yeah, that dude lifts a lot of weight, right? And you see some of these women, and it's just like, you can tell, like Natalie Richards, you can tell, oh yeah, she's jacked. You can touch her own weight. Bro, Eevee looks like she's on her way to, like, teach a preschool class or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, when you see her, like, when she's just reffing and stuff like that, it's like, huh, whatever got her to powerlifting. And then you see her on the platform, and it's like, oh, she's a dog. Okay. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's way cooler when you see somebody at the gym and you're not expecting something big, and then you're like, whoa, that's for sure. Something adds to the cool factor. And keeping on the Eevee, at number 7, I have Eevee Corgan. So yeah, I mean, Eevee won the 52s again this year. She placed 4th at Sheffield, which is pretty impressive to do considering she won the previous year. That's always going to be hard to win and then finish towards the top again, because obviously you're having to break your own records. But I mean, she's a phenomenal lifter. She totaled at Sheffield this year was 481. which like surpassed her best total previously at 57. So now at 52, she's already passed her 57 self. And I mean, based off like what I've seen, I think she might actually have a chance to like be in the top half of Sheffield again, which is crazy to think about. And I know she like discussed when she initially made the cut down that 52 is not going to be a long-term thing for her. But I think now she's at the point where when she goes back to the 57s, like she will be like in that battle for the championship, which is kind of cool because she never really was fighting to win previously, and now going down and coming back up. So that's kind of cool to me. The 52s are an interesting class. All the progress has really been made the last 2 years. The world record has been pushed almost 40 kilos by Eevee twice. And there really isn't anyone, there's only one lifter coming closer, which is actually her teammate, Megan Lee Smith, who is really strong. She did 466 this year at her nationals. And I think maybe she can push her, but otherwise, like, this is just Eevee's class. Like, we're at the point now in powerlifting where there aren't so many classes that are like pretty clear who's going to win. Like, we don't have so many classes. Like, we used to have, like, you go into like half the classes, like, you know who's going to win. This is still one of the few classes I think that are like, we have like one lifter, it's like their lifter will win. So that's my number 7 lifter. Matt?
Yep. My number 7, I have Amanda Lawrence. I have Eevee much higher, but we'll get into that. But I mean, again, objective data. Amanda came in 11th at Sheffield. You know, that meet doesn't set up nicely for her. Those are the facts. I mean, but she's still in the conversation. She's still there. She still lifts well. She represents herself well. And of course, she won her 4th consecutive world title this year.
Well, you know? I mean, is it going to set up for anyone who has only put 2 pounds on their total in the last 5 years?
Fair. I mean, no, it's not. It's not.
I don't really. I mean, if you're not improving, it doesn't. I mean, you have to improve your own world record total in order to do well, and she hasn't. So
correct, and that's no shade against her. She's a victim of her own success, and she's, you know.
Oh, I'm shading. I think she could 2 pounds in 5 years.
Fair, but
hey, Sebastian, I want you to go hard so she can hear this.
Hey, I've already put it out there.
You will actually. No, I'm serious. Go hard because you're gonna help.
But you know what? If I put on only 2 pounds in 5 years, I would be changing gyms. I'd be changing my shorts. I'd be changing my shoes. I'd be doing a rain dance in the river. I would be any holistic thing I could do. Any oxygen deprivation tank. I would be hopping in. To try and fix. I would be doing everything. Right.
Man said no stone left unturned.
She's accomplished everything, and then the last thing left is that Sheffield, and so she has to put some pounds on.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to send this to her, give her some extra motivation as if she needs it. But
well, yeah, that's I'll speak highly of her. That's who I have as my number 7 is Amanda. Like I said, 11th at Sheffield and then 4th consecutive title at Worlds. And again, this is just objective data. I can't I couldn't rank Eevee for me below Amanda because Eevee came in 4th at Sheffield and won Worlds. So again, those are my objective metrics, and that's how I frame the conversation. So Amanda Lawrence, number 7.
Marcellus?
Yeah. So for me, I have Megan Scanland for my number 7 for really all the same reasons that y'all had her at number 8 in terms of her accomplishments and what she's done. What bumped her up for me though is, so I'm a dad. I have a daughter. I know, man, let me tell you, like, trying to train and do everything you do when you have a kid is already tough. And for me, it's the fact that she has multiple and still like does her thing, the way that she came back, the way that she even felt stalled out for a long while, and then do it at her age as well, and then still come back and do all the things that you guys have already gone over that she's done. That's very impressive to me. I know the extra time and work that goes into that for that to even be a thing, to even make any type of progress, let alone the progress that she did to break through and come in and, you know, have the battle that she did at nationals and then come in and win the world championship. Just very, very impressive to me because I look at that as well, the circumstances around which somebody does it. I mean, let's be real. Some of these powerlifters, like, they truly have their entire life dedicated around powerlifting. They don't have to worry about anything but powerlifting. So it's almost like when they do well, it's not to take away from it, but it's almost like I expect you to do well. You have the genetics, you have the time, all that kind of stuff. But for her, to be a mother and be in the situations that she's been in and still do that is very impressive to me.
Great. Sebastian?
7, I have Jessica Espanol. I weigh formulas and world records a lot higher, and her performance at Junior Worlds was excellent. Obviously, getting snubbed with the Sheffield was unfortunate. Too bad she wasn't representing Mexico, because then she'd be at Sheffield right now. But it is what it is.
Okay. Big body.
So this actually gets a little difficult for me because the next 4, they're like literally rotating as we are having conversation. This is tough for me, but I guess this is tough. I'm gonna roll with. I'm gonna go Tiffany here, Tiffany Chapone. She beat Jessica, and Agata. We were talking in the last one, and I agree with Agata. When you go head up and you claim your stake, right? You have your shot to see. All right, let's do this. We're gonna scrap, right? And she takes it. I mean that sits heavy for me. The head up battles. I'm a huge fan of those. I mean, we can make so many arguments, and I know Sebastian, you'll like this. Where if you're talking about within the UFC, if we're gonna see John Bones Jones go against Aspinall, right? Or if you're gonna see you can name anyone, Conor McGregor versus whoever, right?
Wait, hold on. You're telling me people like when the best athletes in the world go against each other?
Yeah,
Stop
man.
it. Stop
Yeah,
it.
man.
Oh, what?
Yeah, man. So yeah, I mean, I feel like the next 4 on my list, anyone could be interchanged within those rankings, but I'm gonna go with Tiffany, and I'm just gonna go ahead and just call out her open world performance real quick. World record squat for the second and third attempt, 163, then 165.5. She missed both of her second and third benches, so she recorded a 97.5. Missed her second attempt and then locked in a 170 deadlift. Very impressive to me. 433 world record total, 120.54 GL. And if you look at like the revolving theme here, like people that are on this list, they're like all in that like 120 GL range for the coefficient people, right? If I want to add to my argument. So they maintain that, or it gets even higher, which is crazy. So yeah, I have Tiffany Chapone, and also it was her 4th consecutive world title, right? So like again, that's like it's really big on my list. There are going to be some athletes that don't have a 4th consecutive world title, but I also have some other sentiments for the year of 2024 for why I believe they're there. But yeah, I have Tiffany as my number 7th spot.
Okay. So for my number 6 spot, I have somebody that some of you ranked lower, but I have Leah. I know she didn't win Worlds this year, which is she's the only lifter this high on my list who hasn't won Worlds. But I mean, she put up a 609 dot, the second highest dots ever. She put up a 123.8 GL score, 3rd highest ever. And she came second at Sheffield in the toughest battle. I mean, coming in, to Sheffield, I was one of the few people who was like, I think Agatha's going to win this, and I was pretty confident about it. Most people were not nearly as confident as I was about that. But Leah came out and had an incredible meet. I mean, she broke the world record by something like 7-8% as well. Like, that's phenomenal. So she came second at Sheffield, but she came second to the person who had at that point potentially the best performance ever in powerlifting, and she had a little bit of a downbeat at Worlds. She came second to Corola, who's also an amazing lifter, but she still totaled I think it was a 567.5, which is also above what the world record was coming into the year. So like her down performance would have been her I think, highest total she had ever done before Sheffield. So down performance is like a little bit of a weird way of saying it. Yes, it was a hard place to put her because by formulas, she's towards the top of this, but she didn't win world championships. So I slot her here like above a couple of world champions that were much lower on formulas and below the ones that were more comparable to her. So that's where I thought I would put her in.
Fair enough. And at my number 6, I had Tiffany Chapone. I mean, and again, just because I do value the head-to-head battles, like you said, like Chris said, and I don't really have anything to add aside from what Chris said. I mean, again, and the reason that I objectively had her higher than Amanda is because Amanda came in 11th at Sheffield, Tiffany came 10th. They're both world champions. They're both 4 consecutive open world titles. And so that was my objective, boring way of going about this. That's why I have Tiffany Chapone as my number 6.
Okay. Marcellus.
So I had my number 6, John Jacob. One, Sheffield. So that's covered. Obviously, the actual 57 kg champion, and she is battle tested because she, has had to go against Natalie before. And I did think it was cool to go from, losing in 2023 to coming back in Sheffield, and then having that head to head again. And then even though she didn't get to have what would have been the tiebreaker essentially at Worlds because Natalie wasn't able to perform. I still think the fact she came in, put up a 5:15 compared to second place, which I believe Bobby hit 4:92.5. And in my mind, once again, still having room left as well. Like she didn't have to push herself to the brink. So yeah, that's why she's placed as my my number 6 with this list anyway.
Okay. Sebastian.
Number 6, this is purely subjective. There's nothing objective about this. I have Alba Bolstrom. She's just fun to watch. She's made incredible progress this year. Like just watching how like at Junior Worlds the narrative shifted. Like I think we were expecting her to be good, and then she was beyond that. I think that's just exciting stuff to watch. That's the only reason I have her on there. Also going to be super excited to see her at Sheffield. I think she's going to be a star for a while, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's actually funny. So we're talking about Junior Worlds. I remember on some the podcasts, and I think Ryan was saying this. They were talking about how Jod officially was initially signed up at 63, and it was going to be a good battle, Jod versus Alba. And then of course Jod ended up not doing it for whatever reason. But in retrospect, it wouldn't have been close. I mean, Jod's an incredible lifter, but we're talking 550s, and that's just insane. So definitely not a bad thing. Big body, what do you got?
literally rotating still.
Hey, bro, you can rotate all you want, but you got to stay with your chest when you say it.
I guess I am going to run with Jod. Again, bouncing off of what Marcellus said, but also, including within being battle tested, she went against Bobby Butters, and Bobby Butters is not a pushover by any means. Coming into the open world performance, taking a 185 squat, 100 kilo bench for a 57 is impressive to me, and a 230 kilogram. She missed it on her second, got it on her third, went 8 for 9, so it was not a bad performance. 515 total, finishing off with, and I believe that a world record. It says it here, maybe junior world record actually, yeah. And 121.20 GL. Jod is a phenomenal talent. She continues to improve. I said it once again, or I said it in the past episode, and I'll say it again. My largest condolences and heartfelt, just emotions go out to my friend and brother Stanley. We miss you, we love you, and Jod, continue to stay strong. Team France, stay strong, and continue to represent Stanley in the best way you guys can. I have Jod as the number 6 spot in my rankings.
Okay, moving to the top half. At number 5, I have Amanda Lawrence. Amanda's been one of my favorite lifters to watch ever since that battle in 2019 with Danny. I think she does not get the respect she deserves. She's been one of the best lifters in the world for the last 6 years, and I just don't think she gets talked about enough. Part of it is because she's in the weight class of 84s that, other than that first year against Danny, she's had no competition. She's just head and shoulders above the rest of the field. And now, like we talked about, we mentioned that she finished 11th in Sheffield, but that's like due to her own success. She pushed from the beginning, even though she didn't have competition. She never sandbagged these meets. I've spoken to her multiple times about this, and like, she's like, while I'm here, every meet, I'll do what I can. Like, I'm not gonna like just try. She could go win worlds most years. She could win 600. Nobody else goes 600 in the 84s. Like, she could win with like 610. Like, she goes and pushes herself. So I don't really take her down any notches because of her Sheffield performance, because to me it wasn't a bad performance. It just the structure of Sheffield just does not, it makes it like impossible for her. The fact that she even came fourth at the first Sheffield is very impressive, but going for, like, I don't think she's a lifter who like has a chance of ever podiuming at Sheffield. It's just her record is too high compared to these other classes. But comes back, wins another world championship, broke I believe the squat world record at Sheffield as well, and the world record total. And I think she's insane lifter and number five this year, and would be in my top 5 all time. And that's without a doubt. Matt, on to you.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. I'm just going to piggyback off of what Chris said. I've got Jade Jacob as my number 5. Again, objectively, came in 8th at Sheffield. I had to tangle with her because I was coaching Natalie Richards. So I was in that battle. I was in the thick of that with Natalie at Sheffield. And, Natalie obviously wasn't able to hang on to that last deadlift, and Jade seized the day. And that was a lot of fun doing battle with them. And she came in 8th, and then she goes to Worlds. She follows it up and finally claims the elusive title, if you will. And Natalie wasn't there, but to Chris's point, Bobby was there. Bobby's formidable. She's no joke. And so, yeah, so that's, and I think we're going to learn a lot about Jade. I think she's got to be the crowd and sentimental favorite here coming into Sheffield. I mean, I think I can't wait for that room to pour out their love and heart and soul for her. You know what I mean? Because she's lost her coach, and again, as Chris said, our condolences go out to them and to the entire French community. So I can't wait for everybody to hopefully rally around her. But you learn more about a person when they're dealing with loss and dealing with getting, kicked down or, having fallen and so forth. And so I'm excited to see what she can put together at Sheffield. So I've got Jade at number 5.
Marcellus?
For my number 5, I've got Leah Bavwa. There's no way she wasn't gonna, especially because of how I'm going about my list, more like subjective. There's no way she wasn't gonna be in my top 5, based upon coefficient, just consistent success really year to year, and the fact that even though she did get second, in my personal opinion, that had more to do with being too aggressive on attempt selection on squats. I truly believe she was I think she was a stronger lifter on the day. And I feel like if they had been less aggressive with the squat selection, that she would have won. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I mean, you guys have already said so much about like her and what she's done, so no need to repeat all of it. But yeah, like coefficient, total, potential strength. I think if they refine the attempt selection a little bit more, she's already even further ahead than where she already is at.
Sebastian?
Number 5, I have Eevee. She got an subjective buff from me because she's an administrator in the New Zealand Powerlifting Federation, and anyone who's actively involved in admin, which is an unpaid thing, gets a little bonus for me. So for that reason, I have her number 5.
Okay. Big body.
What are you chuckling about?
I was just laughing how every one of your descriptions of where somebody ranks in their top 10 has absolutely nothing to do with what they did powerlifting performance-wise.
No, otherwise it'd be boring. They've got she's ranked this, she won this. It's too easy. It's not fun.
Yeah.
I had to switch it up.
I'm not complaining. I just think it's funny.
I mean, to be fair, all of his top 10 people are still, top 10 like lifters, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just shuffled the order based on like what I like.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't pick number 600, you know.
Right. Not yet. He's saving that for number one. Big Body, what do you got?
For my fifth spot, I have Corola. I think Leah is incredible. And at the same time, you have to make sure that you execute. The sport is definitely an individual sport, but at the same time, there are team aspects. And the coach and the lifter, I see both of them as one. And that's why it's very important to be on the same page and to be prepared so that when you come on the day, we understand what the absolute best plan is. We've considered all that we need to. And I talked about in one of the sub junior podcasts where we were doing the rankings there about the element of being ready to win. And I just believe that Corolla was a little bit more ready to win. Obviously, Leah fell short due to some attempt selection issues. And if this is like an ESPN, episode, right? And if we're objectively, criticizing athletes, right? I think this is fair because it's not a shot. It's more so of this is what needs to be improved. And, it's good to, if you have failure, you can learn from that and grow from that, right? So this is not taking a shot. It's more so of Leah definitely fell short due to, those elements of attempt selection. I see here on my list, she attempted 225.5 twice, failed both. And, that hurts bad. And then you have to go ahead and load something up for your third attempt on deadlift. But yeah, Corolla, she's very, very impressive as well. I mean, she totaled 10 keys more, obviously with some significant lifts from Leah. She finished with a 577.5 total, registered 222.5. That's a no joke squat, 140 bench. That's a no joke bench, and a 215 kg deadlift. Certainly strong enough to, get her the world title. She finished off with a 121.04 GL. And shout out to my motherland of, Italy. Shout out to the Italians. Phenomenal performance from Corolla. And I got her as my number 5th spot.
Okay. At number 4, I have Jod. It's crazy to me to think that this year was the year she won her first world championship. It feels like for the last bunch of years, she's been one of the best lifters in the world, and we've been talking about her. But of course, she won her first worlds this year. Unfortunately, Natalie wasn't there, so she couldn't have another rematch. But she beat Natalie heads up at Sheffield, broke the world record total, has a world record squat, has the world record deadlift, and that deadlift was very impressive, 231.5 for a 57. It's pretty crazy. There's not much more to add here. She's a phenomenal lifter, won the world championship, won a heads-up battle at Sheffield, has multiple world records, is towards the top on every formula, and that's all I'll say.
She's a dog for sure.
Yeah. As my number 4, I have Eevee Corgan. Again, objective metrics. Sorry, Sebastian, you can go to sleep during this portion. She came in 4th at Sheffield, and she won worlds again, right? And so this class, her weight class, 52 kilos, is very near and dear to my heart because, and I've been involved in this sport longer than all of you guys have, right? My wife, Susie, has been up until recently, a lifelong 52 kilo lifter. And so my introduction to international competition was in 2003 at the Equipped Worlds. And what Eevee is now doing in the Classic Raw is eclipsing what the Equipped lifters were doing back then. And she's eclipsed what my wife has done, Susie. And my wife, Susie, was a pioneer in that she was one of the very first people on the Classic side to squat 3 times body weight. You know what I mean? Drug tested, drug free, and so forth. And now these women are doing it rather routinely. At least a lot of them are in a lot of these different weight classes. And Eevee is an absolute killer. And like you said, don't judge a book by its cover, because she is the most understated and unassuming person for all the reasons that have been mentioned. And like Sebastian said, she's an administrator, and God bless her for doing that. She plays a huge role down in New Zealand, and I just love her to death. And she's just a wonderful human being. And yeah, and she's an exceptional competitor. And this is her class. I mean, it's just clearing away. It's her class. It's like more or less when she comes to the competition in the 52s. I mean, Megan Lee Smith is gaining some ground, and there's some other people who are making some noise. But for the most part, people are just kind of fighting for second place there. So I've got Eevee as my number 4.
Before I get my number 4, to kind of piggyback off of that, this is going to be very American of me, but I think, I think it's fair to say that American lifters can be used as the metric of how good somebody really is. And so for reference, my client, Megan Helbert, right? It was pretty much assured that if she just made weight at nationals, she was winning. That's how much stronger and better she was compared to everybody else. And she was nowhere near like that. I think that says a lot about just, where Eevee is at. Once again, on my OG objective list, she was also my number 4. But for my number 4 that I did go with, I went with Corola Gar. Pretty much, if you take everything that I said about Leah, and then you take everything that Big Body said about Corolla, that's why I placed Corolla higher. To the end of the day, you can be the stronger lifter on the day, but Corolla executed. She won. There's it. Even if I'm being subjective, there's no way I can have Leah be 5 and Corolla not before, because Corolla beat her. So it's like, if I take all those things that makes Leah so great, and the fact that Corolla still came in and executed the game plan she needed to, and won. I mean, that's it. And then really just picking back up everything that Big Body said about her, because I 100% agree. And that's why she's my number 4.
Okay, Sebastian.
All right, I'm going to be consistently subjective. Number 4, I have Meg Scanland. For a couple of reasons. One, the mom buff. 2, I think she's got 2. I really like. I'm the oldest of 5, so like, whenever I know my mom was like always crazy, like carrying us around. So I appreciate anytime like a mom does something crazy. Also, I love when someone like a woman specifically has a juicy bench, because I coach high school football and I coached high school football, and I would love pulling up the videos. These kids would get like, "Oh, I'm benching 315." I'll pull up a video of like one of the women benching 315, and they shut up really fast. They're really quiet, really fast, and it's one of my favorite things to do. Meg's my like new video. Like, I pull up videos of her to show to them.
Okay. Big Body. On to you.
Yeah, I mean, I have Meg Scanlon as well, in my 4th spot. I look at Meg as, well, first of all, what is in 2024, how many championships was that for her?
This was her 2nd.
So she's another consecutive.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't consecutive, but this was her 2nd.
Oh, when was the last? Who was 2023?
I think 2023 in her weight class would have been
Corolla.
Yeah, it would have been Corolla. Yeah, she won. I think she won.
Yeah, that's right.
She won in 21 or 22, the year that Leah didn't make weight, and then there was a 3-way tie on. Yeah. Yep.
Which I will go back to that in the next episode we do. But anyways, yeah. Meg got the mom buff. I look at her date of birth, and it does not start in the 90s, and that's, she's I have a lot of respect for that. Age is one of the things where if you can be in this game for a while and you're a mom on top of that, and you have like significant duties on your plate, and you're out here just cranking out a world title again, I have so much respect for that. She came in, squatted 202.5, benched 140, beefy bench, Sebastian, as he would say. Juicy, beefy, all that, large. 210 deadlift, 552.5 total to finish out, and then again 121.38 GL. You see this reoccurring theme. I'm working to make my list and fit all the values of people's criterias. And I feel like I'm just, working to stay consistent there. But I have a lot of respect for Meg. Obviously with Alba being on our team, we look at Meg and we're like, she's a dog, and we have a lot of respect for her. And she's the 2024 world champion. And I will say that Meg is looked at with some of the same sentiments, Matt, as how for years it was Matt, or it was Matt and it was Big Ray. And so I want to put out, like, Matt's or Meg's been doing this, and she cranked out another title. And so we're looking at her as like she is the mountaintop. And there's Chiara. She beat Chiara Bernardi. She beat Sarah Naldi. And then obviously Alba came in fourth. So that was like a stacked class to add to my argument there. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of great respect for Meg. I hold her in a high regard on my list. So I have her number 4th on my spot.
He's also kind of like the opposite of Eevee, whereas Eevee, you can't tell necessarily.
Meg, you can.
Crafted, boy. Meg is crafted. Meg is a tank. Like, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm biased also. I'm seeing craftsmanship. You already know I'm biased when it comes to that, but man.
Yeah,
she definitely is Jack. And she also can drink. So that's a plus one for her. So at number 3, I have somebody, I'm guessing it's Matt's number 2, and also with Sebastian's disrespectful number 10. Corola Gar. I mean, she's an insane lifter. She came 3rd at Sheffield, which I think she was the 2nd strongest lifter on the day. Just she was strong enough that she thought she could have taken first, so she took a big jump to pull into first, which she didn't hit on her last deadlift. But she came back at Worlds and beat Leah there. What's kind of crazy to me is that she is such a strong lifter and she has such a strong squat and such a strong bench, but because of the weight class she's in, she doesn't have the world record either. Leah has the squat and August has the bench, which she has the strongest subtotal of any, obviously, 69 ever, but like just in terms of any weight class, like her subtotal is just crazy. I mean, she's squatting, like she just did at like a local meet 225, but like 222.5 on like the international stage. She's benching in the 140s. I mean, she's a crazy lifter. She's probably, I believe she's going to be the 2nd 69 to break into the 600s probably this upcoming year. She's phenomenal. There's nothing more to add. I almost had her at 2nd. It was a last minute switch. We'll talk more when I get to it, but yeah, that's my number 3 lifter.
Yeah, and that's for all the same reasons. That's exactly who I have as my number 3. And just yeah, so I have Corolla as number 3. She came in 3rd at Sheffield. She won Worlds. This was her back-to-back Worlds, albeit in a different weight class now. She did it at 63 the year before, and then she won 69 this year. Fun fact, I mean, she came onto the scene. I mean, she's won in Equipped. She's won World Games. She's done it all. I mean, she's a killer, and she just doesn't get the credit because her social media presence is smaller. She doesn't speak English, like Leah does. But for a lot of these reasons, same reasons, she's just as much the lifter as Leah is. I mean, she's right there. It's like they're neck and neck. And it's awesome. In 2019, she won in Sweden. And, we only kind of knew her as a bencher. I was coaching Sam Calhoun at that meet, and Sam wound up coming in 2nd. And Leah came in 3rd. And like, it was like, wow, you know what I mean? The podium there, it was just really interesting. And then to see what Corolla has done since then. I mean, she's a tip of the spear athlete. I think she's phenomenal. She carries herself well. She represents the sport well. Yeah, she's my number 3. She's incredible.
Okay, I thought you were gonna, based off your criteria, I thought you were gonna have her at 2.
That, well, you'll see.
I think I'm pretty confident I know Matt's gonna have it too.
Now I know. Well, now I know that me and Matt have the same top 3, but I thought we were gonna have a different 2 and 3.
No. It'll make sense.
Marcellus, what's good?
All right, so this is where we're gonna, like I told you guys, we're gonna get really subjective in terms of just where I have her. So my number 3 is Amanda Lawrence. So the reason being is one, just dominance. I know it's about 2024, but to have several years of dominance back to back to back all the way in 2024, can't take away from that. As far as Sheffield, obviously we know it's kind of like, more set against her in that regard. But for me, I would say, so I'm about to show a lot of love and I'm about to show some criticism. So first, my love is the fact that, like, as Seb pointed out, to pretty much put on I don't even know if it's just, I think it's like 1.5 or something like that, or like 2 pounds on your total in the past few years, right? It's not great. But the fact that she's only done that and is still so dominant, I think just shows like how far ahead she is. So because it's kind of like, okay, I've basically been in the same spot for the past few years and y'all still can't catch up to me. I think that's actually pretty impressive to a degree, right? So that's part of it. With that being said, this is where once again criticism, but criticism out of love, Amanda. But I hope you hear when I say this. It is unacceptable that you've put on only a couple of pounds on your total. Because in my mind, the whole thing of like, oh, Sheffield set against her, it wouldn't be if she was still making consistent progress. And she works hard. I know she works her butt off. Like you pointed out, man, she literally does not sandbag her meat. She goes all out. So it's not a lack of effort, but whatever needs to get done to get that needle moving needs to happen. Because if not, I don't think she'll stay dominant. I think Agatha's coming for her.
So you're a pretty high level coach. What would your outside what would you do with something like that? Like what's like inside lane? What would you do?
As far as like to get the needle moving?
Yep.
Well, let me just interject one thing. To be fair, Marcellus is not privy to the ins and outs of her training. So like, Marcellus hasn't seen exactly what her training plan is. So it would be
let's talk hypothetically. Hypothetically, you have a lifter in that situation. What's the what do you do to like shake the tree basically?
I mean, just as objective as possible, I gotta evaluate, okay, like on our heaviest days of the block, right? I'm gonna ask certain questions to evaluate what you're feeling and kind of see what's missing or what we're doing too much of, and then kind of adjust from there. If I'm going just on what I can see, because all like Matt said, I don't know what her programming looks like. I can only see from the base of what I'm seeing. I probably would have her start her blocks off less aggressive because I feel like it's almost like from what I see sometimes, it's like she starts so heavy and so aggressive that it's like by the time you get to the end, you're kind of running out of room. Like you need to start light enough to actually have fatigue be managed so that when it is time to push, you can actually push versus like for example, if I'm having someone aim to hit like 584 on deadlift, right? I'm not gonna have them start the block off at like 551. It's like by the time you're 4 weeks in, you're cooked. You're not gonna be able to. Maybe you hit it, but it seems like RP 20. You know what I mean? But once again, that's just based off what I can see. I don't know exactly what they're doing programming wise, but I don't think it's a lack of effort though. I don't think it's a lack of her trying, at least from what I can see.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, obviously, I have no idea what her training is either. But objectively, I think it's very hard to even like just to figure out what you would do because there's not a single other lifter in the world that could have been stagnant for 5 years and still been the undisputed best person in their class. So sometimes there's just a lifter that's so far ahead of everyone. Like you take any other world champion from 5 years ago, every single one of them, if they were stagnant for 5 years, they wouldn't even be battling for the podium now. So it's like a weird, like it's hard to really use other lifters for reference. Of course, there's going to be lifters that are like there are other good lifters who were really good and they got stagnant and like they could be used as examples. But we haven't seen a lifter who is like not just really good, but like the best and then got stagnant and then seeing them take like another like it doesn't. As far as I know, I don't think there was a lifter like that like ever where they were the best by a lot, was stagnant for a bunch of years and then like took like a next level. I can't think of any other.
I think we know from sports psychology, I'm sure you guys have heard of the Roger Bannister effect, where basically he was the first person to ever run a 4-minute mile. And then the next week, like 5 different guys ran under a 4-minute mile. And so she just doesn't, she doesn't have anyone to challenge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they're staying healthy too, because if I'm pretty sure if we take her best number she's hitting training and she put all those together on the platform, that would be a pretty big increase on her total actually. So I know being healthy has to do with it as well. So there's different things that can go into it, and I hope they figure it out because I don't think Amanda's reached her potential. I mean I've heard people make that argument like, hey man, like she just milked where she's at, and that's just it. I think that's insane. I don't believe that at all. I think they just got to keep tinkering with stuff until they can figure it out, and I do think having more competition or having people get closer to her will be the thing that kind of motivates her to to push through. So, and I want to see it honestly because I mean, like I said, she's my subjectively my top 3 for a reason. So,
I agree with Marcellus. I think there's more meat on the bone there. I think that she can lift more and will lift more. I think it just needs to be. Yeah.
Do you guys think a weight class adjustment either direction would?
No.
Nah.
Nah.
She's too
right where
big to go up.
Yeah,
to go down.
She's right where she belongs, weight class wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like if she goes down, it only hurts her, and I feel like there's nothing to really gain from going up.
Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
I agree on that. I wonder, Sebastian, what you're saying is right though. Like, if maybe really like nothing needs to change, all she needs is that lifter to push her, and then like all of a sudden like it'll just somehow change. So I guess we'll probably see in 2026 if that can happen. But anyway, Sebastian, who do you have at number 3?
Number 3, I have. Okay, so going off what I previously did, basically being subjective. I started off being objective, and then it got boring, so I switched. So we're I am not staying consistent at all. Number 3, I have Jad Jacob. Originally, I was going down the list, and I'm just like, okay, number 1, number 2. I didn't want to put Leah there, so I just went down the next person statistically, and so I put Jad there, and I didn't go back and change it. So unfortunately, I do have a French in my top 3. I don't love that, but she's got a cool aura about her. Like, she's pretty badass. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Big body.
I'm glad that I was able to allow everyone to say their pieces. And I think that because it's been mentioned, I think it's very important that we let the community know. I'm going to try to say a lot and as much as I can while still having respects to the privacy of their plans and their goals. But I have Amanda Lawrence, number 3. I'm going to start off by saying, if you look at every world champion on the women's side, there is not one woman that defeated their fellow opponents by the margin that Amanda has, which is a 50 kg margin. I remember Amanda talking about how angry she was on that day because she wanted to do it by 60. And
Yeah.
that attests to the type of woman and competitor that she is. I think if I just leave it at that alone, I think the super heavyweight, which talk about after, for me at least, spoiler alert, she won by, what is that, 27 keys?
Mm-hmm.
Amanda is lighter and won by 50 keys. Amanda has reigned supreme dominance by significant margin consecutively for 5 years in a row. There are not a lot of athletes that can do that in sports, and there are not a lot of athletes in the sport of powerlifting that can do that. It's a really I have to be very careful, but if I could let the community know things, and you gentlemen here, is there is something that needs to be done, and it has been talked about for quite some time. And just recently, in 2024, it has started to come around the corner where we're starting to see a little bit of an improvement where she's getting some momentum on bench. She used to be a little bit puffier, and then she tightened down, leaned up, really changed her body composition. She weighed in at Open Worlds at 83.10. And to my knowledge, she used to be actually heavier than that. So she tightened up. She got her nutrition locked in. Like, the package that she was 5 years ago is not the same package that she is today. As far as training, programming, training approach, navigation, philosophy, all of those things, it is known what needs to be done. It just needs to be done. And it's slowly but surely coming around to that corner with maturity and understanding that there's been a way that's been tried, and obviously we could be way better. It's just a decision that has to be made. And again, it's so tough to say these things. I'm not trying to, it's like you want to give the people the inside of what's going on, but at the same time, I'm not trying to oust my sister nor my brother, right? So it's like, and this is the challenging parts of sports. Like there's like background stories with like things that maybe Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, or, you know, they had issues within training that they had to finally get over that hump or fix a philosophy or a fundamental that they weren't approaching correctly, right? You know, I could use an example with Russell Orhe. They're in training, things got a little bit out of whack, and he would go ahead and hit some heavy top ends, and then after that kind of chill on the back downs, right? And then you're literally like you're moving forward, right, with your top set, and then from there you're kind of like nullifying that by not pushing your back downs to move the needle further, right? So once we correct some things, you see Russell Orhe go from a 187.5 bench and smack the 210 bench press in training, which is significant gain, right? And all that came from is just a training approach, right? And finally, getting back to what works, right? So, just some things there that she needs to fix, but that doesn't go without saying. Even with her, just think about how I look at this as like, it's almost disrespectful to your opponents, right? I don't have to progress for 5 years, right? Two keys, right? I don't have to progress for 5 years, and I'm still going to show up and win by 50 keys. So as much of that's bad for her, what is that saying to the rest of your opponents, right? And then we have to ask, it's got to come to finally 5 years where we need the most outlier of outliers, a phenomenon like Agatha, to finally, we're waiting for that to come in 2026 to happen. And I'm not saying that I have some 84 kg women on my roster that I'm telling them, we can't just let Amanda sit here and we're not going to go try and get out. I'm trying to get after my brother and Amanda too. This is fair game. This is a sport, and I hope that she does see this. And I know, Amanda, that things like this sparks a fire. I hope that this sparks as big as a fire as it could. I hope Sebastian continues this reign.
Listen, it better, because Agatha is 40 some pounds away.
Absolutely. And
significantly lighter body weight. So
I hope that Agatha pulls up to Sheffield and drops 640 at 69. Because at 84, Amanda did 64, 642.5. So I hope that some type of fire is sparked. Even though she's on my own team, I'm still going to remain tough as possible and objective as possible. It's not good enough. I agree. It needs to get fixed. So there's some elements of, it shows you how freaking good she is. Another thing too, lastly, I'll say is, she pushes the envelope as hard as she possibly can for so long in training and on the platform, to where she's gotten to a point to where it's like, you've squeezed the lemon out with this approach. There is a better approach. Just has to get done. If that's done, like I said, we're seeing the needle be moved with bench, which is good. Obviously, training is training. You got to put it on the platform. So I hope that this pisses her off beyond measure. Amanda, if you get mad, I hope you get mad with this. I hope you get mad, and we're looking to see you do some special things this year. So, but yeah, I have Amanda Lawrence, 5-time world champion. She's been at every Sheffield. She's going to this Sheffield. I have her in the number 3rd spot, 121.85 GL. Amanda Lawrence.
Has anybody on the women's side been as dominant as her as far as back-to-back championships? Matt, do you know off the top of your head?
Bonica.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Yep. And I mean, Kimberly Walford won, in the multiple weight classes, but it's
multiple weight classes. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Let's move to our top two. Matt, we'll let you start this one.
All right. Yeah. Hey, it's Sonita Mulu, and the reason that I picked Sonita, right. Here's my rationale. The reason that she comes in above Corola, right? Because I know what you were thinking, Mike. You were thinking, well, how can if Corola came in 3rd at Sheffield and Sonita came in 6th, how did I have that? Well, here's the difference. Sonita came in 6th at Sheffield. She won Worlds, and then, oh, by the way, she got best lifter. Right. So she was the best lifter at the World Championships. And for me, that was the tipping point. And the fact that she squatted 300 kilos 3 times now.
Wait,
and twice.
So you're saying a best lifter at Open Worlds is more important than your placing at Sheffield?
Well, I'm saying they both look, they both competed at Sheffield, right? Her and Corolla. Corolla came third. Sonita came sixth. It's not like she came 10th or 11th. I mean, she's right there in the middle of the pack. So for me, I mean, look, you can flip a coin. I mean, maybe this is your gotcha moment, Sebastian.
Oh, I'm saving it for later. No, I'm setting the table.
No, I understand. Well, wait. We're going to get to the men I'm going to eviscerate you guys. Because I know you're going to have at the top. I know you're going to have at the top, and he's like 15th. So we're going to get to that.
Okay. So, wait.
but anyway,
I don't think you know who I have at the top then.
but anyway, right? I mean, she knocked this thing so far out of the park, and was the best lifter at Worlds. And by formula, that's typically. I'm like Chris. I hate these stupid formulas. Right? It's ridiculous because we could change the formula from week to week, and it changes the winner and it changes the outcome, and we run a different formula and we have a different best lifter. For me, it's head-to-head battles. She went to head-to-head against freaking Alexis Jones and Brittany Schlater, who previously had beaten her, and she comes out and then she grabs the best lifter award as well. And I mean, she's a trendsetter. She's a boundary pusher. It's unbelievable what she's done. I mean, squatting 300 kilos at Sheffield and then doing it twice in Lithuania, taking it on her second attempt and then going 311 on the third is just madness, absolute madness. So yeah, I mean, and like I said on a previous podcast, God bless her, I've spoken to her in DMs. I love Sonita, but I don't want to hear about your bad back, girlfriend, because every time that you say you have a bad back, you come into the meet and smash. So do you know what I'm saying? I mean, if that's the case, it's like, man, what's she going to squat when her back actually feels good and feels healthy? So anyway, that's who I have as my number 2 is Sonita.
Okay. Marcellus?
Yeah, my number 2 and 1 were the only ones that I didn't change from my original list. Sonita is my number 2. It's funny what Matt just said about her back, because literally Bob and I talked to her a couple of days in person before she competed. And we're like, oh, hey, man, just go out there and do your best. Maybe it'll work out. And then she did what she did. And me and Bob were like, what the hell is she talking about? but no, Sonita, for all the reasons that Matt stated, and then also, even though, yes, this was on the platform, bro, she squats 700 pounds. I never thought I would see a woman do that in my lifetime. I'll be honest. Like, that is absurd. And like we said, I mean, we all have our different views on the coefficient, stuff like that. They change and stuff like that. But typically speaking, we don't see the heavier weight class, except for Wilkes. That was only a weird one. But like, we don't typically see the heavier weight classes dominating coefficients like that. So for her to get best lifter as well, it's just, that's what we're getting to. Like, this is like just straight freaky territory in terms of what she's capable of, and the fact that she's only going to get better. There's no reason to assume she's not going to just keep improving. That was a no-brainer for me. Even with trying to be subjective, I couldn't take her away from number 2. There's no way.
Sebastian?
Yeah, that's easy. It's Sonita. Are we just gonna? It's got a big body. I'm pretty sure there's only 2 left. So do we want to just have that conversation?
I'm not. Let's first see what Big Body says. Big Body.
This is about to be the craziest. This is about to put me to shame.
Big Body.
Who do I have on number 2 on my list?
Yeah,
it's gonna be Sonita. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, what? I don't even know. Oh, okay. I know what you're thinking, Sebastian. Yeah.
No. I agree. No, I was just like, if you didn't pick her, that would be the craziest thing.
Yeah, if you didn't have her, Big Body, if you didn't have her at number 2, I would get off the podcast right now. I'm like, okay, this is all cap.
No, the question about Sonita is, can we get the girl from her video to come to Sheffield and like walk on the platform after her squat?
The what the heck, girl?
Yeah. That's my
Well, we'll try to reach out to her. We'll reach out to her agent, try and see if she can come out.
That's what we need. I know we're not creative enough to do stuff like that, but like, the NFL would have that girl in the front row, and they'd have someone with the camera, and they'd be like, she would squat, and then they would like take a video of her.
God. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm gonna be echoing pretty much what a lot of you said. Sonita is incredible. We've literally never seen nothing like her before. Squatting 700 in training in 2024 and, registering a 311 squat. She registered the same squat as Austin Perkins. Austin Perkins is another outlier, and people are saying like, but he's significantly lighter. But the thing is that like biologically, right? You talk about science. You want to talk about science, right? I don't even care. Sonita could weigh 300 pounds. She could weigh 350. When you squat that much, like I'm still, it happened months ago. And till this day, I'm trying to figure out how does this make sense? She's different. I think that Sonita is still a Bambi in the sport. I think that Sonita Bambi, meaning she has a lot more to go. She's still she's in her infancy stages, in my opinion. I believe that Sonita is not even close to her peak, which is very scary. It's very scary. I think of Sonita, obviously she's older than Agata, but I think of Sonita in terms of her training capabilities. I think that she's going to be doing even more crazier things that we can't fathom. She went to Open Worlds, hit a 311 world record squat, and before that hit the 301 world record squat. So back-to-back consecutive world record squats recorded. She finished with a 152.5 bench, 267.5 deadlift. A lot of people are saying it's controversial. I believe that, it's a simple factor here with locking out, especially with like super heavyweights. You're not going to be able to get away with trying to get your shoulders so far behind the bar. And I believe that's one of the things that super heavyweights need to really focus on. You don't need like a Shawn Mills type of lockout or other lifters that they try to touch the wall behind them with their shoulders or the top of their head, right? They're super thick in the lower body department. So, I mean, just in regards to the controversy of that, they passed it. If it's passed, all we can do is run with it. Just like if they don't pass it, all we can do is run with it, right? So she had a 9 for 9 day as a super heavyweight. She recorded a 731 total world record, 123.94 GL, which we actually had a conversation with some other people in the community, and maybe I'll get into it probably in the next episode regarding GLs or coefficients rather, and how they are subjective, especially with both ends of the spectrum. Like for instance, there's not a large population within the super lightweights and the super heavyweights. There's not a lot of 130-pound men or even lighter women walking around on the planet comparatively to the middle range. And the same thing goes for the super heavyweights, right? So the coefficients can kind of move around or benefit a weight class, and objectively, statistically, they can, mathematically, they can, right? But on top of all that, not to forget to mention, before Worlds, that class was so stacked. There's like this explosion of talent that we're seeing. Alexis Jones is somebody that I've gone against one of my athletes, Brittany, and she's beaten us consecutively at the USAPL Nationals in 2022 and 2023. And she was someone that we were always looking at that we need to get over that hump. And I'm looking at Alexis as like, she might be the one. And at this time, people don't understand the lore, but, it's Brittany Schlater who was reigning from 2023. You have Alexis Jones, you have Tassie Joel, you have Natalie Lalai. There's so many to go. It's such a stacked, like super heavyweight women has really just pushed the envelope as a class. It's actually, I'm so like, obviously I'm a larger individual. I'm going to go for the larger classes, but I'm a huge fan of the lighter weight classes of all of them, right? And super heavyweight women's was a class where like, it was kind of, you had Bonica for so long, right? Like Bonica has like 11 world titles. And for this class to just explode in 2024, and you really didn't know who was going to take, the top of the mountain. You didn't know who was going to plant their flag and reign supremacy here. And it was Sonita. She exploded and made incredible progress. So I have to give her, you know, just a lot of praise here. She's the queen, in my opinion. She's the queen of the super heavyweights. And like there's just so many good things I could say about her. I think it's just undeniable. I have her definitely number in the 2 spot on my list.
Okay. I don't really think there's much I can add to that. I mean, yeah.
I was just going to add one thing, but go ahead, Mike, say your piece and then just add one final thing very quickly.
Right. So I would say there's not much to add. I guess she had a 123.9 GL score, like the second highest GL ever as like an 84 plus, which is just absolutely insane. And like, I know Big Bob was comparing the 311 squats to like Austin. Like, I don't think we even need to compare with that. Like I've trained at some of the strongest gyms in the US. Like I've trained with, and I could probably count maybe 10 lifters I've seen, like not in a competition, like in training squats 700 pounds. Like first of all, like maybe 10 lifters. Like obviously I don't have it all. I don't have a list of it, but like not more than that. Like I've seen lifters who are some of the best lifters in the world. I've trained with Taylor a billion times. He's never squatted 700 pounds. I've trained with like 700 pounds. Forget about women, forget about man, just forget about how much you weigh. That is something that like, there is no scenario. If I walk into the gym and I see somebody loading 700 pounds, I am staring at that no matter what. Yep. And to see that as a woman, that's just mind-boggling.
She would be 228, which is insane.
I remember watching live. I was there a few feet away the day when Bonica squatted 600 and then Amanda Martin chipped it and then Bonica and I was like in awe. Like I remember watching that, be like a few feet away from there, being like, "This is insane." And I was like, and then Alexis Jones came out, and I'm like, "Ooh, maybe she'll be the one to squat 300 keys in the future." But to see 700 pounds that quickly from when 600 pounds first became, I think that's just amazing. That's all I have to add.
I honestly think it's the tip of the iceberg. I think it's cool to be strong now, and so you're going to see a whole lot more of that.
It's insane because and this is the perspective I try to give people because keep in mind I coach people like Ashton Ruska, Jamar, Bob, like we see the crazy way they squat. So Nita's squat is probably like the most impressive single lift I've seen from a human being, honestly, because that's how insane it is that she had 700 pounds that she even had on her back. If she would have gotten halfway up, I would have been impressed. But the fact that she squatted that is insane.
This will be the final thing, I promise. I'm just going to take it one step further, right? There are only 2 people in drug-tested competition, right? We're not even counting all these people that squat high and multiply and all that garbage, okay? We're talking about real powerlifting here, right? We're talking about drug-tested IPF, that sort of thing. There have only been 2 women who've squatted more, and they both did it equipped. That was Bonica, right, who squatted 325, and then Galina Karpova, and I was there. She competed against us in South Africa in 2010 on one of the equipped teams that I coached. And oh, by the way, she's failed a drug test, so we can throw her out now because she's been doping and so forth, right? She's been exposed. So Bonica is the only person, and Bonica did it equipped at 325 kilos, which is 716 pounds. And I'm telling you this right now. Sonita's going to squat more than that raw, unquestionably. No doubt in my mind. So her squat will become in the near future. All she's got to do is stay healthy and continue to do what she's doing. The recipe that she and Joseph have got, keep doing what you're doing, right? She will have, matter of factly, the heaviest squat by a female ever, regardless of genre, classic or equipped. She's in a galaxy all by herself, literally, and it's amazing. And so just to put that in, that's no suit, none of that stuff, no knee wraps. This is knee sleeves and a belt and squatted to depth, to competition standard and drug test. It's mind blowing. It's incredible. And I'm looking forward to her to seeing it and being there for it. So yeah, she reigns supreme.
Okay, I think there's really nothing left to add. Who should start? We'll go with you know what? Let's let Sebastian start with number 1, his favorite lifter. Go.
Yes.
So I guess we all have the same number 1 lifter. And I think the conversation is not about her in general. It's about what she means to the sport. And I think she represents something to me as someone who's who's heavily invested in the future of the sport, who's heavily invested in the business side of the sport. what she did this year, Agatha Shitko, what she did this year means to the future of the sport. So one of powerlifting's real issues, and I don't want to get too much into my side of things, one of powerlifting's real issues is our athletes just don't compete frequently enough, right? And it's not their fault. There aren't enough incentives, right? That people are not offered enough incentives to compete more frequently. She competed 6 times in full power.
Yep.
And then 9 times total?
9 times total. Yep.
Okay.
9.
That is what the future, speaking of the future of powerlifting, if that's what the future of powerlifting looks like, it looks like athletes competing more frequently and showcasing their talents. I use this analogy all the time. If Patrick Mahomes competed twice a year, he wouldn't be who he is. We needed our athletes to showcase themselves more often, and she is the shining beacon and the shining light for that. So for that alone, she is my number one athlete. Despite all the accomplishments on the platform, it's the amount and the frequency that she's showing people you can compete at, right? Professional sports is hard, right? It's not for everyone. And she's showing that you can compete multiple times a year and still be the best in the world. So I think that's what the conversation needs to be about. It needs to be about not that she's an outlier, but that she's the example for the future.
That was good. I like that. Obviously we've discussed this before, so I specifically went for you. But that's a good place to start, and it also leaves everyone else to talk about her actual accomplishments. So we'll let Marcellus go next.
First of all, Agda's the GOAT. Period. Like I feel like on the women's side. I will say this. For me, if she does in 2026, if she goes up, right, and if she does beat Amanda, then I think she's the GOAT, period. That's how I feel at that point. But in terms of her accomplishments, it's not just, like Seb said it, the frequency at which she competes is impressive. The amount of progress she's making, on which she's making it, super impressive. Dominating, at this point, 2 weight classes, being as close as she is to, the Amanda's total, being a couple weight classes down. But to me, it's also the fact of how young she is. I think that's very impressive. And even her training age relatively, like how long she's been powerlifting and just lifting weights compared to a lot of these other lifters. And to be at the point that she's at is incredible. But even the way she she SBD 6 days a week, like what? That's like just that type of stuff. And even though people can have their different views on like that type of program or whatever, I think the fact that she does that is part of why I think she's able to also compete as frequently as she does, because she's very much prepared for it, her body's conditioned to it. But yeah, and then let's not forget, I'm pretty sure like this most recent meet, that was also a 6-for-9 day, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yep.
So Matt Gary's Mr. 9-for-9. And the fact that it's just like, okay, she's doing that on a 6-for-9 day, by all accounts, what we would consider a bad performance, right? In terms of execution wise.
She was trying to blow things out. I imagine that's why that happened. I don't think she strategically was like, I think she was trying to do something insane.
No. She was trying to do well, but I'm saying the fact that she still totaled what she did, that she still had that performance with missed lifts. That's it's absurd. It's like okay, what does a 9-for-9 you look like currently? Like at this point, like if you really push the envelope. So it's just
I don't
ridiculous.
know, big body. Your money's looking like my money.
Yeah, and that's another thing. That's another thing I add too. The fact that she truly makes a full-time living powerlifting, not coaching, not doing something administrative, like just powerlifting. She makes from winning these meets. Like she's showing like this can happen, this can be done, right? Like that is huge for the future of the sport. And the fact that someone's actually able to do it and willing to do it is huge. So yeah, I mean we could go on and on, but I don't want to say everything and then leave nothing else for everybody else. But yeah, I mean she's everyone's number one for a reason.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, for all those reasons, she's the best. I think when you think about an outlier, and I know that Sebastian doesn't like that term, or at least he's using, the fact that she competes more frequently as kind of his basis for the argument, and I think that's a great one. For me, I mean,
She's an outlier for sure. But I think we want more people like that.
Of course. Look, there are 32 possible. I said this on another podcast. There's 32 possible world records, right? Because there's squat, bench total, squat, bench, deadlift total. That's 4 disciplines multiplied by 8 weight classes. There's 32. She holds 6 of the world records, 19% of the world records. That tells you everything you need to know right there. And she does it across multiple weight classes. She's the best. And it really isn't even close. So, right. And the fact that she did her last performance on a 6 for 9 day, Lord help us, when the attempt selection gets cleaned up, when she doesn't miss the opening deadlift and she has to repeat the opening, on her second attempt, and she makes 9 attempts, just add in another 15, maybe, I don't know, 20 kilo. We'll see. So
that was another thing real quick. Matt, I don't know if you heard on the King Lit podcast, the last one she was on, but how they don't even necessarily have like a written out game plan.
Yeah.
Like
right.
she kind of just go, like, that's crazy. Like the fact that she's still doing what she's doing. So imagine what difference just that alone makes. So it's not just that she's doing,
yeah.
It's not that she's just doing what she's doing, but she's doing what she's doing and not necessarily doing everything right. You know what I mean?
Right. And the fact that she's so young is a benefit to all of us. Because if she can stay healthy, she's going to be in this conversation, presumably for a really long time. And that's exciting. Because that lifts up the whole sport, the whole community. It helps us all. We all eat because of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Big Body, what do you have to add?
Yeah, my thoughts on Agata is, again, another lifter. Like, the higher you get up on top 10 lists, you gotta believe that they're doing things we've never seen before. And the thing she's doing is, it's new. As long as powerlifting has been here, it's new. And that says a lot. And she's also the leader in newness, right? Like, setting all these records. The stat that Matt brought up of 19% of the records that are available, right, within those disciplines, amongst those multiple, like, imagine just saying just those disciplines, but then saying multiple classes as well. It's like, what? And to the men's side, I challenge you all to be greater than you already are, because we have this young lady, this petite, she's jacked, but this petite, nice young lady who is doing things on a level that men, we're not doing it at her level. She is, like, you can make the argument that she is arguably the greatest power lifter of all time. And I know to hear that, it's like hard to get used to that, but it's like, okay, she's breaking all these records across multiple classes, 69, 76. She's going to threat the 84 for sure, class. And I was talking about, for all my Marvel fans out there, there's going to be a couple people that will possibly acquire their final or second to last stone. And Agata is one of them. If she wins Sheffield, she will be the only person out of 3 Sheffields to have won it twice. Not only just get there and podium, but win it twice and do it in another class. I mean, there's like so many, there's too much good to say about her performance and her as a powerlifter. And on top of that, like, just to add to it, she's like a very humble young lady to my degree. She knows what she is. She doesn't have to say anything. Her resume speaks for itself. She's so young. The upside is incredible. I mean, I can't say enough good about her. We've never seen anything like Agata. Not only is she the #1 open powerlifter in the world, you can make the argument, and I think that she is the best powerlifter that we've ever seen yet. And I just want to say to Sebastian, if powerlifters could compete frequently, yes, that will help our sport. That will help all of us. I want that to happen. But the problem is that it's going to be difficult with specific classes, and we're going to have to kind of temper that, right? Like, how many times can Ashton Russo...
Hold on. Do you not think that linemen recover at a different rate than wide receivers do when they play on the football field?
Well, it's different. And let me get to it. How many times can Ashton Russo take...
Let's not sidetrack too much.
I want to get to this really quick, though.
After the men's, we can have this conversation.
Yeah, but I just want to say, because you mentioned it, How many times can Ashton Ruska take an 800+ pound squat in a year? How many times can Jesus take a 1,000-pound squat in a year? How many times can, like, there's a price that you're going to have to pay. If you're going to ask those lifters, if they compete 9 times in a year, right? They would not be able to go to top end capacity in all 9 of those competitions. So again, I'm mentioning this just to say,
right. And I've never once contended that would ever be the option. That's why I've contended we all value head-to-head competition more than records. And so I've always contended that in order for the sport to grow, we need to focus more on competition and less on record-setting performances.
Right. I'm just saying that I want to find a way to do that. I want the people to hear this and know that I want to find a way to do that, but there's got to be like a formula. There's got to be a schedule. It's got to make sense. We have to have a platform and a format that makes sense in order to be able to do that. So what I'm saying is I'm with you, right? Like I'm always for the sport growing. And if our athletes can gain more exposure, they can be paid more of what I believe their actual value is. It's going to help the entire sport. It's just it's good for the thought to be, I want to say it right now on this podcast so the community can hear it. How do we do that? You know what I mean?
So, So here's what I would say. Let's put a pin in it. Let's go to the men's. There's just a future Powerlifting podcast. Let's go to the men's. And then if we're at the end, let's see if he wants to continue.
Yeah. We'll
that topic. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, we'll continue. But again, I just wanted to put that out there to start spinning the wheels on that. I think it's important to also, talk about those. Those are important things to consider.
Yes, so. And this is the right group to discuss it with. But
yeah,
let's. Mike, what do you want to go, man?
Yeah. Well, I don't have much to add. We basically covered everything. But just Agatha, she totaled over 600 4 different times this year. Like we said, she had what was it? 3 bench, 1 deadlift, 2 total. Yeah, six world records. She became the first woman ever to do what like Taylor did with the men, hold all 3 formulas. She had the highest stats ever, highest GL ever, highest slopes ever. And unlike when Taylor did it, she has them all by a landslide. I'm not going to get into the GOAT conversation because I think GOAT, greatest of all time, means you have a resume and that includes years of winning. But in terms of seasons, this is undoubtedly the greatest season in powerlifting history. That's
to that, not to interrupt, but I just want to say it's incredible how special she is because with how it's been such a short of a time that she's made this much of an impact, right? And you could compare that to lengthy resumes and you could say that there's things that she's done that others haven't done in that longer period of time. That's all the argument that I'm making in terms of like the GOAT argument.
Right. Yeah. I guess the one last thing I'd add is what she told us on Friday when we were talking is her plan for World Games is she plans on doing 10 times body weight. So now we're talking about a female. No female has ever done that. I don't know if any females even done it equipped, but she thinks she's going to go to like 65, 66 and try to do 650 or 660 at World Games Raw, which is just, these numbers are just like, if anybody else told me these things, I would just laugh. But like when Agatha tells me it, I laugh and like, okay, maybe it's gonna happen, which is just beyond belief.
You get goosebumps when you hear it because you know she can do it. Like it's very like it's possible, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, she just everything she says it's so. I remember the first time I met her at Worlds a couple of years ago, and I was talking to her, and just like when she says things, she says it so seriously and like. There's like, she has that like belief, but it's not like that delusional belief that you see sometimes with like younger lifters. It's like that belief. And then like, she does everything in her power. We talked about how like powerlifting is her like life. That's her full-time job. She wakes up and her job is powerlifting. She trains, she eats, she sleeps, she does her walking, like the whole day is focused around like her optimal powerlifting, which is just insane. I have nothing else to add. If anyone else has anything to add.
Yeah, that's why I said the conversation is not about is she the outlier? The conversation is she the model? Like, is she really the outlier or is she just the example for what people I know obviously there's practical reasons why people can't do what she does, but if we take someone else, here Marcellus, I'll ask you this, if we took Ashton and we put her in put him in her environment, how much better would he be?
Oh, we talk about it all the time, man. It's like the
Yeah.
fact that he's as good as what he is with all the stuff he has to do. If he could just have that lifestyle, I mean, who knows? So yeah, that'd be crazy.
So
Yeah,
I have a question. Do the others, for the other coaches in here, do you believe, what are your opinions on the frequency of competing? And I'm just curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
I feel like as it stands currently, and obviously depends on the level of lifter, how much sheer weight they're moving, but I feel like 3 to 4 times a year is probably like the current limit for most of them. And even with doing that, you're going to have probably two of those that are really like the highest in performance, and then one that's more moderate, and then one that's going to be on the lower end.
Exactly.
And that's just because, of course, we compare to other sports, but it's just different. The amount there's a different type of fatigue that comes with it. There's a different cost on the body, on the muscles, the joints, all that, depending on how much they're lifting. And then once again, lifestyle wise, right? Like, for example, if I just use Bob and Ashton, Bob could probably do that and handle a little bit better because his life is more built around maximizing powerlifting, whereas for Ashton would be very difficult. Even if he does it, like keeping him healthy is going to become that much more difficult. And that's just the reality of it. As weights gets heavier, lifestyles change. That's the thing we have to remember too. We look at these other, like these professional athletes, other sports, they're paid to do just that sport. That's it. Whereas for most powerlifters, that's just not the case yet. So
Yeah, let me just. I mean, Sebastian's explained this to a lot of people, and people don't usually understand his point. So I'll just
Yeah, you need to add context.
I'll
Yeah.
explain it in my okay. So his general idea is he's not referring to as powerlifting currently is. He's saying in theory, if we were in a situation where powerlifters were actually paid and that was their job, right? So we could take away some of the other factors. And also his situation is he's talking about a season, right? Similar how like in football you have your off season, then you have training camp and the season. If powerlifting you had like something like a 3 month season where the exact number of competitions we don't know, but the point is you compete a lot of times, whether it's every week or every 2 weeks, and they would not be at full all out. They would be, I don't know, depending on, you would have to programming it as a coach, like RP6, RP7, depending on the week, how important it is. And it would be a team thing. So everybody, it wouldn't matter that you're not going RP10. So he's saying, do you think it's attainable as a coach to have a structure where you have a long off season to prepare yourself for a season? And then your season would be a 3 month stretch where they would have to compete, let's say 8 times or whatever it is. And obviously not all maximal, maybe save the maximal for like the playoffs 1 or 2 times at the end of the year. Would that be doable as a coach with lifters that would be able to be doing that full time? That's kind of his general idea.
it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, and hold on, let me just because I do want to put some context into this because I think it's important. I'm proposing this assuming these people are paid to do this. There are a lot of incentives for people to do this. I'm not asking people. This is very hypothetical. I do think it's practical in the future, but it is very hypothetical. But like we're changing the calculus, right? We're changing it from where powerlifting is based on how much weight you can lift to how can we win, right? Because that's how every other sport works. Every other sport is not about how much you lift; it's about can you win, right? And so that creates a different entertainment value, which is obviously what sports at the professional level end up being. So I think when we have this conversation, a lot of times I like to ask coaches, what would you do in that situation, as opposed to if it's practical? Because of course it's practical. If there's enough money, anyone's going to do it.
Yeah. It would change. This would be interesting because obviously the way we look at the sport right now is based upon who lifts the most. But at that point, it's going to be more based upon almost like our ability as coaches to keep their baseline at a certain level to where, okay, hey, this meet falls on a RP6 week. Okay, we need your RP6s to be a higher baseline than what they maybe were in the past or whatever. So I mean, it would be interesting. How it plays out though would still depend because I think part of it is still. I mean, we even look at some people where it's like, let's say they do compete 4 times in a year or whatever, and just the impact that has on the body, even with most of those weeks not being pushing all out. So I think it would kind of, which is part of sports too, it would weed a lot of people out, even people that are at the top right now, because then you're going to also have a factor of recoverability that gets involved in it. Like how often can you actually do this? Which I'm not saying that's a bad thing. So that's how sports are, right? Like with any sport, it gets to a point where your genetics have to be at a certain point to be at the very top, but that would weed some people out because it's like you can't recover enough to compete this frequently, regardless. Because if we're talking about like RP6, RP7 submax work, I mean, look at what Jesus's submax work is. We're still talking about hundreds and hundreds of pounds. You know what I mean?
The hefty toll.
See, I love this because every high level coach I've talked to about this, they immediately just go into coach mode. They immediately go into how can I solve for this? And like that's what I think would happen. You would just immediately go, okay, I need to do this and this. We need to adjust nutrition here.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun.
Yeah, and another thing too, to Agata's training split, like it makes me think, can other weight classes, can other lifters, if you structure it correctly, you experiment with it and you try it for time, can you make it more of a format to where, because Agata can do what she can do, she can compete at that frequency. Because one, you have to understand that she's practicing a frequency that almost no one else in the world is practicing, right? So it's like, I don't think that anything is impossible. It just has to make sense with all the moving parts. But I think it's good to bring up this conversation. It challenges us coaches. It challenges athletes. Man, if we can create a format, if there was a season and we had something like a 3-month season, if we did that or however, but at the same time, I think it's also very important for powerlifting to be year round too, and have, because there's still that special element where you have the nationals, you have the worlds, you have, the Sheffields, right? I think we need more Sheffields out there, but there's so many ways you could do it. But I am curious to hear, Coach Matt, what your thoughts are on this.
Wait, just give me one second. Well, I just want to add one thing. I think part of what intrigues me the most about this is because of the whole team format and whatever it is, it leads me to like the conversation they were having on the King List podcast about like coaches of the year and stuff. In this situation, it would totally, like right now, there's game day coaches and there's personal coaches. But here, it would totally, like, it would take game day coaches from being not as well known, but like some of them very well known, but like a lot of them, like people have no idea who, like, I forget her name is, but from Sweden.
Yeah, Carol Arvidsson.
Right.
Great
so
coach.
she's one of the greatest coaches, but like in the US, you mention her name, nobody knows. But with this system, the team coaches would become the most important thing. Like obviously the programming coaches would be extremely important, and they would have to come up with like
I've obviously theorized a lot on this, and I didn't think we'd actually go full into this, but I imagine your coaches would be more like general managers, and then personal coaches would be more like handlers.
I was going to say the opposite. I think it would be the team's coach, like, right, since these lifters aren't a team, the team's coach would have to figure out a way to schedule. They would have to work with the like personal coach to figure out like how can we schedule where we can keep this lifter is going to be ready for this much intensity for this week because we need them to like legit go all out this week. Whereas and keep that lifter. So it's like not only are you handling the lifter where like you're like what does he have on the day? It's like what does he have on the day, knowing that we need him to be ready to move the next week. It would make it like extremely like even in regular sports we see that, right? In basketball, players don't play like 48 minutes a game. Part of the coach thing is not just like what does he have this game. It's like we can't gas him out this game and then have him unavailable.
So I think that's another interesting element. I love when people think of things I didn't even think of, where like you're going to have some teams are going to have people go out all out every single one. Some teams are going to be more measured. Some teams are going to be more conservative. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of different elements in this hypothetical thing that you can talk about. But I'm glad we're having this discussion. But I think there's any number of different elements you could see from this.
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts, Matt, especially because you've been in this longer than all of us, and you've seen the shifts and trends and whatnot of things changing.
I think I understand where Sebastian's coming at this. Because I know you eventually want gambling on the sport, and you want your thing is aggregating eyeballs to the sport. I'm trying to put words in your mouth, right? But I think you want
eyeballs equal money. It's
equal money, right? And I think so I'm tracking along with all of what you're saying. I just think you also are walking a fine line. Because if you're telling me that you're going to have somebody tune in to watch Jesus squat 700 pounds, they're going to become disinterested in watching, right? Or somebody like that.
Hold on. Let me address that specifically. So right now, I'm watching the Chicago Bears. I have the game on. The Chicago Bears are 4-12.
I understand.
Okay, they are absolutely horrible. I still have the game on because I'm a fan of the Chicago Bears. And so I guarantee people, if you have an identity with your team that is disengaged. Now, athletes are important. Stars are important. Don't get me wrong. I want to see Jesus lift as much weight as possible, of course. But if we can get people engaged on their team and their city, that's so much more valuable than an individual. And that's just how sports have always been.
You're right. We're just in a unique sport. Powerlifting is such an objective, metric-based sport where American football is not, right? In other words, if the Bears won the Super Bowl this year, but played a horrible game, and you didn't care about how many yards the offense accumulated and all this sort of stuff, but you won the championship, you're like, rah, rah. With powerlifting, it's different. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, you're after a world championship. Meg Scanland's a good example.
All right,
right?
hold on. I know this isn't okay. If Team Matt Gary beat Team Marcellus and that was the trophy, you wouldn't care what your lifters like. Let's go.
No, you're right. You're right. Of course, it's all about securing the W, and nobody can take a world championship away from you once you've secured a world championship. And I'll take a world championship on a bad day. I mean, Meg Scanlon won her world championship, her first one, on a 5 for 9 day. You know what I mean? Do you think she's, but she can say, hey, I'm an IPF world champion. I just think powerlifting is this unique sport, and I understand what you're doing, and I'm not against it. I think it would be fun. I think these are fun conversations. I think they're healthy conversations to have. I also think it's highly dependent upon gender, upon chronological age, as well as training age, and also relative, absolute strength. You know what I mean? Because like Ray ain't competing 8 times in 12 weeks. I'm just telling you that right now. Because his chronological age is high, his training age, he's got a lot of mileage on the tires. And I'm just telling you, people that love Ray Williams and that want to watch Ray Williams, because I'm still his coach, you know what I mean? It's cool. They're going to track along with him, but nobody's going to get enjoyment of him coming in and squatting 300 kilos when he's capable of squatting damn near 500 kilos. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I was going to say too, we can kind of see this too from the fact of if it's just a matter of like, oh, people just enjoy watching people like just powerlift, period. Then we would see live streams of local meets and all these meets that go on every weekend. We would see a certain view rate that's just not there. When we see the view rates, it's when you see it's the best lifters lifting the most weight.
That's right.
So I mean, there is that unique element to it.
Don't get me wrong at all. It's a combination of things.
Yep.
It's a combination of also. If Ray were put in an environment where he did have to compete every single week, things would be different. He would be lifting less. Don't get me wrong. It's a combination of team affiliation with the best athletes in the world. And I'm going to make a quick business argument here because I think this is the most important thing that we're not even talking about. Obviously, you guys are actually all good business people. But the reason teams are so important, let's say hypothetically powerlifting as an individual sport ascends to this really high level, right? Private equity investors are going to change the sport into a team fashion because teams can be owned by corporations, basically. And so because teams can be owned, private investment can come in and own a team, and that value can appreciate. So you see this with golf, where golf has gone away from being an individual sport and has gone to the team model because those teams can be owned and they can put capital into the sport. They can pay athletes huge salaries. So I almost see it as just skipping the first step. We're getting to an inevitable end. We just skip the first part where we grow as an individual sport, and then private capital comes in and pays all these athletes millions of dollars to turn it into a team thing. So I know that's a higher level business case, and that's a whole nother podcast on its own. But if the sport did get to a certain level, that's what would happen anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're ready to move on to the men.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You want to take okay, so now we are going to move on to our men's top 10. We're going to do the same format. We are going to start from 10 and go to 1. And we'll have Matt Gary start with his number 10 male lifter.
All right. So much like, the objective way that I went about looking at the females, I have an objective way of looking at the men, and I applied the same logic and the same rationale. So if you didn't compete at Worlds or Sheffield, sorry, you just don't make the cut. Now I've got one exception, and that's my number 10 lifter, and it's Adeo Masakin, but he did compete internationally because he won Western Euros, and he's the current world record holder in total at 83 kilos. And so that's why I have him as my 10th best lifter.
Okay. Big body.
I'll preface real quickly. So first, I came in while you guys were talking, but as far as honorable mention, how are you going about it? Can you clarify again?
We could do it. You could do it before you start your list, or we could do it after. Either way.
Oh, okay.
You want to go ahead, Matt?
You know what? Let's do honorable mentions afterwards. Once we're done with our list.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yep.
Okay.
Idea.
This will be biased on this 10th pick. I'm gonna go with Jonathan Kaiko. fun fact, he is the only male lifter to have performed at every Sheffield. And I believe that the level that he's on in a class where it's incredibly tight, like it's incredibly
What
tight.
do you mean? Hold on. What do you mean by that?
What do you mean?
He's the only lifter to.
Jesus did both.
Yeah.
What was it? Yeah, Jesus as well. But 93 kg lifter to go back to back in Sheffield and podium.
Podium. Okay.
He's the only. Sorry, I left that out. Actually, he's the only lifter to go to both Sheffields and podium on the men's side. That's as a current. Now it's only been 2 Sheffields, but for me that stands out. So to my argument, I believe that he ran into you run the gauntlet for so long. I mean, he went like almost 4 years without missing an attempt. He's breaking consecutive records year after year. Loses the Chance Mitchell, comes back in 2023 and wins. And then in 2024, I believe it was just more so a deal of that frequency and the battles and the mental strain. And it's like literally traveling around the world and you're putting everything in your life in the back pocket. And he's still competing at such a high level. He's like literally squeezing the tank or squeezing all the juice out of what's left in the tank. For me, it just stood out for me. And also it's going to be biased because I have a closer look at what's going on. So for me, I'm excited to see Kaiko perform this year, but for 2024, I'm going to put him on my top 10 as holding the 10th spot.
Okay. Sebastian?
So at number 10, I took this as the best powerlifter, and so there's obviously a number of things that weigh into that. At number 10, I have Tony Cliff. Now, the reason for this is he is the only master on my list. Not only that, he is the best male master lifter of all time. And he's also totally number 2K. And so I felt like I wanted to mix that in because age is a real serious debuff. And to be doing over 2K and being the best lifter in the Masters category and still being semi-competitive in the Open, I put him at number 10.
There's a lot of other male masters who would take issue with that comment. Just saying.
hey, board don't lie. Scoreboard don't lie.
Marcellus?
Yeah. So first of all, for the listeners, and we'll do this, I'll bring this up at the end too. But so as it turns out, my original objective list was the exact same as Matt's. We'll see if at the end my original objective list is the same as Matt's male. But for the list I actually am presenting, I completely threw objectivity out. Like even compared to the females, it's completely gone. It's like this is just what I want. So my number 10 is Brandon Petrie. And the reason being is so all the way up into Worlds, Brandon had 5 back-to-back preps. So he had the Arnold in 2023, Carolina Primetime about 3 months later, then USA PL Nationals, then his qualifying meet for PLA Nats, then PLA Nats, then Worlds. And the fact that he managed to come in and beat what Keiko set up at Sheffield at that Nationals, go head-to-head with Gavin, even though Gavin didn't make weight, obviously. But let's say he would have. My assumption by the fact that he did make weight is that Petrie would have been lighter, so still would have won based upon that. And then went into Worlds and managed to get a podium position. And doing all that back to back while injured was just very impressive to me, and something that shows like just a lot of heart and a lot of grit. And it has me very excited for him in the future on the basis of the fact that he's now healthy, training consistently, and has the off season that we've not had in a couple of years. But just him being able to come in and do all that and get to that point and have the world winning pool in his hands and just a couple inches short of lockout, he's my number 10 for that reason.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about how we rank these. So mine is very different than Matt's. For the women's, it was a little bit more similar. For the men's, because of the amount of talent that didn't compete at IPF Worlds, I definitely have multiple people on my list that did not compete at IPF Worlds. I just did it based off how good I thought their performances were this year. And obviously, there's definitely bonuses for where their performances were done. With that being said, my number 10 lifter, I almost didn't have him on this list, but then I was like, I don't know how I could not have him on this list, is Jesus Alvarez. The reason he's so low on this list is just looking at like formulas and stats like that. He was 75th in male docs this year and 16th in GL score. So like by the formulas, obviously GL is way better for him than docs, but like he wasn't near the top in either of those. So that moved down a little bit. But then when I thought about it, I realized if not for 2023, he would easily make my top 10. And I think we just get clouded. Like he had such an insane performance at Sheffield this past year that we forget that he competed twice this year, Jesus. He did 11:13 at Sheffield and 11:12.5 at Worlds. And we forget how crazy that is. What was Ray's world record total? Was that also 11, 12
and a half.
Something like that?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So even though he didn't have the highest formula or whatever, he twice this year did what was the best super heavy or just the best totals ever. So he definitely had to make my top 10 list. I just put him at 10 because of the formulas. I just dropped him down a little bit. Matt, I guess what we were looking for. Yeah, so after we go around the round, and anybody just add in whatever you want to talk about from that round. Just easier to do it that way. So.
And then are we going to shuffle? Can we shuffle the order again? That way we just make it different each time?
Yeah. We'll keep shuffling it. So. Okay. Fine. So, Big Body, you go. For number 9.
For number 9, I originally had left him off the list. But I have to pay my respects to world champions because, that's what I value on my list. It's so hard to do that. And it's completely different when you have to go on the world stage. I've watched coaches like, my brother and Matt do this for a long time, and they've even done it multiple times together. And the playing field of competition is just like, it's incredible, right? When you have those massive battles like we saw this year in the 66s, or if you see every year in the 93s, or you see in the 83s, especially the battles here in America with the 83s. I almost left this person off the list, but again, they're a world champion and they didn't have as much competition. So that's why they're much more lower on my list, and they are kind of sitting by themselves right now. And that person is going to be Huáscar Carpio. The reason why I have Huáscar at number 9th is because another thing that stands out, which is big on my criteria, is he's a 2-time world champ now. So, he's done some great work. He's been building, and I have to give respect to that. Came in with a 222.5 squat, 147.5 bench, and a 267.5 deadlift, 637.5 total. And another thing I commend him for is because I know the pain that he felt in 2023 when he just barely missed the invitation for Sheffield. So to come back in the next year, maintain your spot as a 59, and then get into Sheffield, I have a lot of regard for that, a lot of respect. So I want to give him his I want to commend him. So I have Huáscar with the 105.49 GL. I have Huáscar as my number 9 spot.
Okay, Sebastian.
Number 9, I have Elliot Sykes. He is the best sub-junior in the world on the men's side. He is competitive with the juniors. I've given his flowers for being 17 into 18 this year. So I cannot discount that in any way, and I wanted to put a sub-junior on the list.
Okay. Marcellus?
You better have Illy on that
Explain
list.
your chuckle. Explain your chuckle.
My chuckle is whether you look at this objectively or subjectively, what he did is impressive, but he's not one of the 10 best lifters in the world by any metric.
By any metric.
Not even close.
By any metric, doing it at that age?
Yeah, but we're not ranking the 18-year-olds right now.
He's one of the best lifters. He did the best he could given the environment he was given.
The best he could.
He's the best. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, who's the best?
But just imagine he has this criteria. Did he do the best he could?
Actually, that is one of my arguments in one of my other ones.
Sebastian, I need to be on your list,
I
bro.
nominate
Sebastian,
myself for being the second
Sebastian, I
best
do the
lifter in
best
my
I
home
can
gym.
at every one of my meets, bro. I need to be on your list now.
Exactly.
I worked so hard, man.
Oh my God.
Anyway, it's my turn, right? Okay.
Listen, I promised not to be I promised to be subjective.
That's
I
hilarious.
delivered. Okay.
Oh,
My number 9 is Jesus Oliveras for all the reasons that he was your number 10. There's just, I mean, bro, you have the highest total. There's no way that I'm not having you on the top 10. But also, even though once again, I know obviously 2023 was a much better year for him. I think my big thing with Jesus is, and I understand this, I think a little bit better than even what some other coaches do, just because of my background with kinesiology and stress on the body. But the amount of stress Jesus's body goes under just with training alone, despite him being able to eat more for recovery, stuff like that, is already crazy. So the fact that he can still show up and do what he's able to do on the platform, like with what he was still able to do at Sheffield, even though it wasn't as good as 2023, coming in and still securing his place at Worlds, he just has to be on the list because he's the amount of work that just goes into that and me understanding how much the tears bite.
You can give him a bonus for being large, but I can't give someone a bonus for being young.
No. I'm not giving him a bonus for being large. I'm giving him a bonus for the amount of workload he has to do, like on his body, like the lifts, like regardless of size, if anything, him being larger kind of could like take it off. It's like, okay, well, yeah, he does all this workload, but he has better recovery. I'm just saying, if your criteria is he did the best he could, then I should be your number 10. Is all I'm saying. That's my point.
So we'll make a new list for people who did the best, who tried the best.
Who tried the best?
Look, man, you're not beating me in effort. That's all I'm saying.
Hilarious.
But yeah, that's my number 9. Like I said, mine's gonna be very subjective. So
that's good. My number 9 lifter is a lifter who I am fairly confident is not going to be on anyone else's list here. My lifter's only meets of the year were local meets, not done in one of the countries that is huge in powerlifting. My number 9 lifter is Keenan Lee. Keenan Lee was off the radar this year, but I looked at what he did recently, and he hit 940 at 98 kilos, which is crazy to me. I mean, in general, my other lifters here who did not do like Worlds competed at much higher level meets with more competition, but the fact that he did half a kilo under the 105 world record, weighing closer to 93 than he did to 105. To me, that's just crazy. I mean, he's top 5 in the formulas and everything. We've seen him compete heavier and hit heavier totals, I think 950s, maybe 960s. He's in an unfortunate situation where it's hard for him to actually make an international team, like some other lifters that we talked about before. They don't, but I couldn't leave him off the list. Just he was so high in the formulas, and he just had such a phenomenal performance. I mean, I hope we get to see him at 105 this coming year for some country and get to battle with the other best 105s in the world. But yeah, that's what I have for number 9. Matt?
Number 9, for a lot of the same reasons that Marcellus had him, is I've got Jesus Oliveras. Won his 4th IPF World Championship. He squatted. He had not look. He didn't have his best performance at Sheffield 2024, but he still squatted a world record, right? Which is just extraordinary. And to Marcellus's point, and of course Chris knows this because I coach Ray and I've been coaching Ray for a decade now, is that Ray and Jesus are just different animals. I mean, they're both one of two actually, and it's and so yeah, it's just. They're just different in every sense of the word. And so, yeah, I've got Jesus on the list, and I'll explain why he's a little bit lower than one of the other people that have already been mentioned, but I've got Jesus at number 9 and really just excited to continue to see him dominate that weight class and push boundaries even further. So he had an off year for him, and I'm saying that as a compliment. So when you compare what he did this year to what he is capable of and has done, it was a little bit of a down year. but still, he squatted a world record. You know what I mean? He was 11th at Sheffield and he won Worlds. And so Jesus is number 9 for me.
Okay. Moving on to number 8. Okay, he's up. Marcel, start with number 8.
My number 8, I have Wasker, and once again, different with my first original bid, but with Wasker, a big part of it is, of course, this is biased because I get to have a very zoomed in lens on this, but just the way he came in for nationals and was able to do what he needed to do for nationals, and the crazy cut that he had to do for that, like that's the type of cut where even for a heavier weight lifter, that's going to hit an impact performance. And Wasker is a very lightweight lifter, man. We're talking this dude was at like I'm basically doing a bodybuilding prep, bodybuilding levels of cutting, man. Like easily the craziest thing I've ever had happen with a nutrition client. So the fact that he was able to do it, that he locked in, despite the extra responsibilities, once again, being a father, opening up a gym, still working his normal 9 to 5 job, being able to lock all that in for nationals and then coming in and winning worlds and finally securing the spot. And honestly, I give it a little bit more too, because I'm still of the belief that the fact that he had to beat a total from somebody that, ultimately ended up like having a little issue with the drug testing thing, I think that's crazy. But the fact that he didn't let that stop him and still did it is very impressive to me and huge. So that's why he's my number 8.
Okay. Sebastian, who do you have at number 8?
At number 8, I have Timur.
Okay.
So I have him there because I was again giving the junior debuff, but I also felt like if I was going to put Jesus on my list, I had to put him on here as well because he's really chopping at the heels. And the reason I put Jesus on there was because he gets a bonus for lifting that much weight. And so I felt like someone who was only a handful of pounds away should be on the list as well.
Okay.
Big guy bias.
Big Body, who do you got for number 8?
So I have Russell Orhe, and I'm going to explain why.
Do tell.
We talked about Jesus not performing to the best of his ability. And I'm not sure why this is not talked about fairly enough, but Russell Orhe did improve his total on the platform in the year of 2024. It was around the range of 16 keys with the 860 kg total at nationals. And then he certainly made a good deal of mistakes coming into Worlds, and in which one of them is, they've talked about it already. You're not supposed to, you need to be aware of all your competition, period. And I was actually talking, I forgot who I was talking with, but when you're not, this is not an excuse. Please understand clearly, not an excuse. You lost fair and square. You need to do a better job of staying aware of your competition. And I know for a fact that the mindset would not have been thought or all the chips would have been put into Sheffield had the attention been fully aware of everything that's on the playing field. And that's to their fault. And I'm being the hardest on my own people. However, with that being said, when we talk about not performing to your best for what we know how special Russ is as an 83 kg lifter, the guy that has reigned supreme for 6 years consecutively and has 2 world titles, which you have to give respect for. But for what he did in the year of 2024, in a bad performance on the world stage, he still has the same range of a GL as lifters like Ashton and Waskar with a bad performance. And it took a series of things to take place for it to get to that point. But even with that, even with his worst, you would say is his worst performance, not by total, but in terms of capability, he still put up 843.5 with 117 GL. And for what I know, what the lifter that he is, it's hard for me to keep him off there. And you can add other parts of the criteria like coefficients and things of that nature. He did progress his total at nationals. They definitely made some mistakes, and those things were they're crucial. And with all that to be said, I'll finish off with saying this is his second loss ever since he's been identified as being this caliber of a lifter. Since he hit the stage and the world found out about him, since he lost to Brett Gibbs and then he came back, corrected it, won, he didn't look back for the next six years. So to stay on top, comparatively, if you look at any other lifters out there, I'm not sure how many lifters stay on top with the best total in the world for 6 years straight. And to have 2 world titles, to come to the world championships, he took that L, and he also took it very, I would say, honorably. I respect the way that he handled it. He showed the community how to lose, how to not be a sore loser. For me, I'm a sore loser. I think Shannon Sharp said it well. Shannon Sharp said he's a nasty winner and even a worser loser. So for me, just from football, I think Matt knows what I'm talking about here. But I just commend Russ of, he took so much backlash, so much heat, so much from the community, and credit to the man who beat him. I'm not going to speak of him because I have him higher on my list, but I just give a lot of respect to Russ and how he took everything. I still think he had a phenomenal year, and I think that even with his world performance being the worst and what he did at nationals, and he was at the world stage, right? And now, and it's another thing that's crazy too. I can't forget this. His second place performance in the 83s of 2024 was still so good that it landed him a spot at World Games and it landed him a spot at Sheffield. That there was no other coefficient that could get above that to take him out of it. And he had the 93s, 105s, 120s, and 120 pluses opportunities after seeing what he placed to take that and take his Sheffield card spot, right? And he still maintained it. So, I mean, again, not his best year. It definitely knocks him down the list severely. But I rank him number 8 on my list.
Dunkin' Donuts is calling. They want their glaze back. Anyway,
I'm just supporting my brother. Let me say that real quick too. I had someone once tell me that I glazed Joey Flex. I don't even know how that's possible. I don't even know how that's possible.
When you said that, that was really funny.
Yeah, how do you glaze your own family? Like, it's my brother. I'm pretty sure Marcellus' sister is probably the #1 fan, and rightfully so, right? So it's like,
no,
people that say that, like, that's insane to me.
I appreciate how passionate you'll defend anyone in your crew. I like that.
I mean, as expected, right? You should.
Okay, Matt, who do you have at number 8?
Number 8, the legend, Tony Cliff. He came in 12th at Sheffield. And the reason he came in 12th is because he YOLO'd, right? I mean, after squats, he just set it on almost like every attempt. So if he'd taken more logical attempts at Sheffield this year, he presumably could have placed higher. But he came in 12th. He won Euros. Let's not forget about Euros, right? Euros is like a World Championships light, basically, or a World Championships B. So, I mean, there's
it can't be a World Championship B with no Americans there.
Well, no. Well, that's what I mean. It's a World Championships without the Americans, which is huge, right? Because the Americans are the most dominant country, have the most talent, et cetera, et cetera. But Euros is a big deal.
That's getting clipped.
But all the regional competitions, Euros is by far the most prestigious of the regional events. Right, it currently makes NAPFs look like a joke. So he came in 12th at Sheffield. He won Euros. He came in 3rd at Worlds against some really stiff competition, Bob Matthews, Etienne, and so forth. And then, oh, by the way, just recently, he went on to win the British against a Murderer's Row just recently. I mean, I was there. He beat Nonzo, he beat Mo, and he beat Indy. And oh, by the way, was only 2.5 kilos off of his PB total. So for me, my number 8 lifter is Tony Cliff. He's a legend.
Okay, so for my number 8 lifter, I have an 83 kilo lifter, and it's not Russ. I have a few 83s on this list, and Russ didn't make it. I just want to explain a little bit my thought process, which is that While I do think the most important competition is Worlds/Sheffield, I value not just competing at those, but your performance at those. So while Russ came second, he lost in a meet where he was expected to win. And for me, that combined with the fact that these other lifters I'll mention have a higher total this year, just removed him from my consideration for this book. So at number 8, I have Adi Amasakin, the 83 kilo world record holder, did 861 at Western Euros. Obviously, this is not an extremely high level meet. He was there to break the world record, which he did. He broke the world record on his second attempt and got it overturned or got reds. I forget which one. I'm not sure exactly why. And even watching it back multiple times, but therefore he still went up because he wasn't just trying to break the world record. He was trying to break it significantly. But I spoke to him and he went up, but he was planning on going even more up if he already had the world record secured. But as is, 861, which is world record total, and also at that point, the highest total in, actually, no, it's already afterwards. But yeah, either way, world record total and way over what the previous world record total was. So I have to have him on my list. I'm not having him as the highest ADC on my list, but he has to make my list, and he's my number 8. So let's move on to number 7. Sebastian, why don't you get started?
7. I have Jesus. Did not had a down year, but he really did try to send it. I mean, can you imagine had he pulled that final deadlift? I know it probably wasn't there, but like, can you imagine what kind of like those are the moments in sports where like you don't forget that like the strongest powerlifter pulling for the win on the biggest stage. I still go back to that and think like I think almost the whole year could have been different and had a bit because like despite we'll get to this like Gustav is like in terms of like he's not Russ, like he's not like in terms of like who you want your champion to be. Like you want the strongest. That's why it was so great when he won in 23 because he was the strongest lifter. And I think just missing that moment would have been really cool. So I do have to have him. I have a lot of credit for him trying to pull for the win there. And he won Worlds easily. So I mean I can't see leaving him off the list.
Big Body, who do you have at number 7?
Number 7, I've got Ashton Ruska. I got Ashton Ruska at 7. I am look, when you get called out by somebody and then you show up and you go head to head and then you beat them fair and square, again, that's a big element in football. I'm a big former football guy, played over a decade in the sport, almost decade and a half. And it just rings very loud bells for me. So Ashton came in and he weighed in at 102.9, so he was light. He hit a world record squat, 365.5, registered a 210 bench for a second attempt, and then 365 to seal the deal. Fairly easy on the third attempt as well. And 940.5 to tie on body weight, win. Secured 117.22 GL. I mean, again, someone called you out, which we love that, right? I wish that I want the powerlifting community just to say super quickly, it's good to have competition. And if people call each other out, it's good, man. Like, it's sports. Like, it's good. Like, hey, I'm going to beat you. Hey, no, you're not. Okay, let's see what happens. I think that's good for the sport. So, yeah, I just want to commend Ashton and Marcellus and Matt Gary for the day they had. It was a great championship acquirement there. And, yeah, I think it was good. He beat Anatoly head-to-head battle. I got Ashton number 7.
Okay, Matt, who do you have at number 7?
I've got Waskar at number 7. And the reason that I had him placed a little bit higher than Jesus was just because, I mean, this was a back-to-back world title for Waskar, was relative to his previous best. He basically equaled it. And he did those two best to best back-to-back. Because at Nationals, he totaled 638, and then at Worlds, he totaled 637.5. And so that was my rationale. It was only relative to, what he'd done previously. So, yeah, I've got Waskar at number 7.
Okay. Move on to my number seven. I also did not include Oscar on this list. I just thought that while he had a great performance and he earned his Sheffield ticket, the 59s as a whole are not necessarily at the same level as the other weight classes in terms of where their totals are at.
Mhm.
And even though obviously we know Fedo tested positive, the fact that you're a good chunk behind like the world record in total, as well as not having the world record in any of the lifts, I just couldn't place him above these other people who were like significantly higher in like coefficients. Like, I mean,
So
Walker
hold
was,
on. I have a question about that.
wait, let me just, yeah.
It's on your topic, but would Waskar be a lot higher on formula? Does Fado's performance throw the formula a lot? Or do we need to ask a nerd about that?
What formula are you
Interesting.
speaking of?
GL? Is that what we're
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, if the
I
formula
feel like I feel like it has to. I feel like it
like
skews it by default.
yeah, like significantly because he's ranked so low, and it's just it doesn't seem
Yeah,
doesn't
because
make
yeah,
sense.
to your point, the original iteration of Good Lift Points was the IPF score, and that was in like 2018, 19 when that came out. And Danielle Amello and Amanda threw that freaking thing on its end. Right. And
Yeah.
that's why, yeah. So they like those two performances by Danielle and Amanda like screwed the whole thing. And that's why they, yeah, ranked
Right.
so.
That's a good point. I never thought about that because, right, I think meaning by GL, he's 253rd in this year, which is like, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm not having him in my top 10 does not mean he's not an insane lifter. Like, if I expand this list to 15, he'd be on it. So obviously, there's something skewed if it's like that off. And it would make sense because the way in general formulas work is it uses data and then like takes like standard deviations from the mean and stuff. And including in that is like the outlier results. And I mean, Tato obviously is a massive outlier because he was just like 40 kilos above everyone else's best ever. So I wonder how that would work. Like if they could literally take him out of the equation and redo the formula. But yeah. So either way, I was saying my number seven lifter. I have Shell at number seven.
Mm-hmm.
I had a tough time figuring out where to put him. Like he had the second best stats this year. He had the fourth highest GL score. He's a phenomenal lifter. He battled with Perkins and gave him a much more difficult time than most people were expecting. Like a lot of people, I remember coming in, everyone's like, yeah, Perk's just gonna come in and have a chill day, and then like this way he doesn't like hurt himself for Sheffield. And like Austin had to like try like really hard. Like it was obviously he was the stronger lifter on the day, and probably by a decent margin, but it was close enough where he had to like hurt himself in terms of Sheffield and push. So that what Shell did there really impressed me. And also, I mean, he became the third 74 ever, me, Perk, and Taylor to push into the 800s, and he pushed well into the 800s. What was it? It was eight when he hit 815 at the UK Arnold, and then 812 and a half at World. So twice this year into the 800s, which is just absolutely phenomenal. We're not going to discuss what he's going to do this coming year because that has no impact on where he's ranked, but he's an insane lifter, and in most weight classes, like would probably be the favorite, or at least have like a pretty good shot. But I just think coming into this world, like I don't really think he had much of a chance to win, but he still had a phenomenal performance. So that's my number seven.
So,
Let's move.
I just want to say one thing. So you value him doing well at an Arnold competition, which is a showcase meet, and coming in second over Waskar, who's won a world championship.
So no,
I get it.
Yeah, wait. So let me say, yeah, I don't. That it's not that the coming to Arnold over the world. It's what he did at World to me. Obviously, not winning was just like it's crazy performance. I mean, there's a reason why he's so high up in all these formulas. Like I think, enough. I mean, I have we'll mention later, but I have another weight class that I also don't have a champion in. I just think certain weight classes are just way behind like the standard. I think it was Pete Spencer. Somebody put out like a post, like an outlier post of like where people would need to hit in different weight classes to like be considered an outlier. And like some classes were either at the outlier status or like very close, and some of them were just like nowhere near. So like to me, I had a hard time putting a lifter in a class that has like 20, like, I mean, like the 59s have like less than a quarter of the amount of lifters as like
Fair
the
enough.
740, 83. So that's the way I viewed it.
Point taken.
Okay, so
Yep.
let's move on to number 6 and Matt.
Well,
I didn't do my number 7.
Marcellus has got to do
whoops, I missed that. Okay, Marcellus,
Yep.
go.
No, you're good. You're good. So yeah, funnily enough, because yeah, KJL it wasn't on my list, kind of for the reasons that Matt brought up, actually, just then. Just because in terms of like where I would place him relatively, I do think that's probably going to change after Sheffield. We'll see. But as far as my number 7, I've got Adi as well. He's got the current world record total, with room left, in my opinion. And just more on the more subjective note for me, since like I said, I've made this list very subjectively. I like the fact that people doubted him for so long and that he's really just held on to all of that and then used it. Like when you like there was a time, I don't know if you guys have seen, but like when he would talk about the numbers that he was gonna hit and what he was gonna do, and people really would like roast him or make fun of him and stuff like that. And like different podcasts like, oh, he can't do it, he's not gonna do it. So the fact that he now has the world record total and in a lot of ways is looking to be like the favorite going to Sheffield, I respect that a lot. So he's my number 7.
Okay, now we're actually on to number 6. Matt, start us off.
Number 6, I've got Kasim Senumon, the 66 kilo world champion. He won worlds in arguably the greatest battle we've ever seen, where there was a bodyweight podium. And so, yeah, I mean, not much more to say on that. He showed up and showed out and did what he needed to do. And shout out to Peter Lucy, who was this game day coach, the head coach of Thailand. Phenomenal performance there. And yeah, Kasim Sen, number 6.
Okay, Big Body, go first.
Number 6. All right. Humor me on these reasons. I have Bob number 6. Let me explain why. I understand when you look on the playing field, you look at the stats, you look at who are the competitors, and you see where are the holes. You know what takes place if both Bob and Ashton compete as 105s. I know that Bob came into Worlds and he was 104.9.
5.9.
What was that?
105.9.
Well, he was 104.9, and then you guys gave him like a Snicker and some Gatorade, right? And then he then reached 105.9, right?
Yeah.
So like you couldn't register the 104.9. They're like, no, you need to get heavier. So, I mean, to all respects, he is a 105. He's so great that he out-totaled all the 120s and all the 15s who were available to compete in that week. And I really want to put him higher. I even had him higher. And then it's killing me because there is a Rondell out there. And I think that we have a historical battle coming our way with not only just Bob and Rondell in the future, but we have the young 120s who are monsters. And I believe it's just a matter of time to where we will be able to say, because that's the beauty of sports, right? Where we're going to have we might have one of the craziest battles we've ever had in the history of this sport in time with those young 120s coming up. And I'm not going to mention your name because I want you to stay hungry and I want you to do more to really take it. I want you to take it and be like, you have to say my name in the open division, right? One of them competed at Great Britain and was a force there. But I think he's top 10 in the world for me. And I even had him top 5. But to go ahead and he's stronger than both classes in the year of 2024. There's absolutely no way I'm leaving him off the list. I've even told Bob that. Phenomenal year to you guys. Again, you literally out-totaled multiple classes in the same week of championships. I'm going to go ahead and read off his stats real quick. Again, he weighed in at 105.9 with the Snickers due to a Snickers and a Gatorade or cut little snacks. 352.5 squat, 237.5 bench, 380 deadlift, went 9 for 9, 970 kg total, 119 and 20.29 GL. Phenomenal year for Bob. I've got him number 6 on my list.
Okay, Sebastian, who do you have number 6?
Number 6, I have Durance. I love the moments in sports, the high pressure situation, pulling for the win. I statistically not great, but slaying the giant, or metaphorically, maybe not so statistically, but like in that situation, I enjoyed that. Number 6.
Okay, Marcellus.
My number 6 is Ashton Ruska. And like I said, this would be a little bit different in terms of his placing with oh no. Anyway, Ashton Ruska for number 6, basically at nationals, winning nationals on 7 attempts, only taking 7 attempts and securing his win. And that was, while also being injured, as part of why we only had him take 7 attempts to not try to come out of it healthy. The fact that he was able to do that against competition and still secure a spot was huge. And then, of course, coming in at Worlds and doing an excellent job, like Big Body said, getting called out. People questioning, can he do it to the standard? He hasn't been on the world stage a long time, coming in, doing his thing, and doing it with weight left in the tank, like on both the squat and especially the deadlift. Yeah. And once again, like I said, with me having the closer lens of knowing everything he has to deal with, with getting his doctorate, military duties, now, getting ready to have a family, just all the different factors, and the fact that he still sticks with it and does it. When I, quite frankly, have clients that don't deal with half the stuff, who use it as an excuse to not be where they want to be. Yeah, Ashton's got it when it comes to that.
Okay, at number 6, I also have Ashton. It was interesting because in terms of where I think he is in the world, I think he's probably higher than number 6, but between what he was dealing with and whatever other circumstances, he just did what he needed to. So he won Worlds with a 940.5 total, which actually isn't even the world record total because Anatoly did it first. But yeah, I mean, he's an insane lifter. We saw on the day he took the squat world record, which Anatoly then took again. He definitely had more in the tank on squat. We'll presumably see him at Sheffield take the squat world record. He definitely had way more in the tank on deadlift, like loaded exactly what he needs to win. And bench also, like bench is weird. It's his weirdest lift. Like you can never tell with training. Like I know he deals with I don't know if it's, I'm not sure what injury stuff, but like he sometimes benches close grip, sometimes benches wide grip. It's really hard. I don't know. I'm Marcellus to obviously speak on this more, but he's an insane all-around lifter. We've seen what he's done before at similar body weights at other meets. He's definitely capable of well into the higher 900s. And I think he might have spoken about it or not, about 1,000 at 105, which I believe he's capable of doing if he can stay healthy and have a meet where it makes sense, a Sheffield type meet. So yeah, he's my number 6 lifter.
I'll just say real quick. Just for the insight, yeah, because ever since we started working together years ago, he's came to me with a constant pec issue that likes to flare up on and off. That's why you see the inconsistencies with that, especially when he has to do stuff like swimming for the military, that irritates it. But yeah, I mean, to your point, because that's the one thing I wanted to say I forgot to say, but it's the fact that 2024 was the first year of us working together where he didn't actually PR his total, in terms of his all-time best, and that's because it was a matter of, for both nationals and worlds, hey, just come in and do what you need to do. So I think the fact that he didn't have to push to his best and still won both of those adds a lot of merit to where he's at.
Yep.
Yeah. I
Mike,
definitely agree. Yeah.
Mike, can I go next? Because I have Ashton as my number 5.
Oh yeah, go.
Yeah. So just a seamless transition. I have Ashton as my number 5. I use this analogy all the time. There is one day out of the year when you can become an IPF world champion. There are 364 other days out of the year when you can hit a PB. And Ashton did what was required, what was necessary to secure the W. He had a lot more in the tank on that squat and a lot more in the tank on the deadlift. And I'm going to get to Bob in a moment. Obviously, I had Bob ranked one above him, but we did what was required. And oh, by the way, he beat a 2 times best lifter in Anatoly Novosmani. So let's not forget that. He had a dog that he was competing against. And Anatoly has been the best lifter at IPF Worlds twice. And so he beat a tip of the spear type athlete and did what was required and had plenty left in the tank. But we took the absolute minimum so that we didn't risk, dropping the ball, so to speak. And Ashton knows how I feel about him as a man. I love him. Absolutely salt of the earth kind of guy. There's nobody in this sport that I have more respect for. I love him. So yeah, Ashton is my number 5 lifter.
Okay. Big Body, do you have a number 5?
So to that same sentiment, where any time that you could come in and put out a performance that wins you the world title, I have Jesus Olivares there. I can't leave out the strongest man on the planet, in my opinion. I think that the only thing that he has left to do is beat the PED untested equipped record, which is like a couple pounds, maybe, what is it, a key or two over his best. I can't leave him out of the top 5, just for me. I'm a big guy, bias, right? And Jesus, I've handled and spotted for him in many nationals and Sheffield and international competitions, and it's just like I can't, like, his warm-ups, he's so strong that every lift is literally red. Okay, let's go blue. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then we'll take our our first attempt, right? So anyways, all this to say, he won his 4th consecutive title. And to put in perspective, he's so strong that I don't need to be, that's my thing, right? Just like with Ashton, or just like with other lifters, right, that we talked about, Amanda Lawrence, I don't need to be my best to still be the best in the world. And a lot of this has to go down to like strategy, right? Because of the formatting of where big meets are, and the meet that pays out the most is Sheffield. And we want our athletes to get paid the most, right? We want our athletes, we regard them in high value. And we think that, in my opinion, all these amazing athletes we're talking about over all these podcasts, they're severely underpaid in my opinion. So anyways, going back to it, he hit a 455 squat on second attempt, forgoed his third, took a 262.5 squat bench, and took a 395 deadlift, and that was all he needed to win. 8 attempts, 1,112.5 kg total, 110.79 GL, and I believe with that performance, it's still a super heavyweight putting up like 570 dots, which is like, it's crazy, right? So, commend to Matt Gary and Joe and Jesus on the day they had. And, it was nice to see that there was actually, coming into Worlds, there was actually somebody that kept Jesus in a place where you got to perform. You're not going to just put up any lightweights, right? You have to perform. So I got Jesus as the 5th spot. For me, it was a no-brainer. I can't leave him off the top 5. That was just for me, though.
Okay. Marcellus, who do you have?
All right. So for my top 5, this is where it gets far more subjective, not with the fact that they're on the list with my order. Because in my OG list, Ashton was actually my number 5. But like I said, this is about what I like, right? My number 5 is Durance. Because first of all, look, man, I've been powerlifting for what will be 10 years now, like here in 2025. I've handled a lot of meets. I've never experienced anything ever like what I experienced on Duran's third deadlift. Yep. It's a completely subjective thing, man. But I'm telling you, and then as someone who just loves sports and watches sports, that was one of the first time where something that happened in powerlifting felt like something you see in another sport, man. Like the energy, the crowd, everybody, no matter what nation of was going crazy. And then when he quieted the crowd, bro, you could hear a pin drop. It was insane. It was so crazy. So the fact that he not only, that he won, but it's who he beat, right? Like this actually speaks so much to Russell. Like once again, like Big Body pointed out, Russell, that was only Russell's second time losing. And Russell was the guy. Russell's the man where it's like, it's not a matter if he wins, but how much is he going to win? How much does he have to push? That's always the mentality behind Russell, right? And regardless of what people may think of him as a person, whatever, as an athlete, you got to respect Russell. He's the man. He's the guy. So for Jurgens to not just win, but to go from being ranked so much lower for so many years and then do it at the age at which he did it and to just come in and put it all together, man, that was like a top powerlifting moment for me of 2024, just because the story, the narrative, everything. It was insane. So yeah, I gotta give it to Jurgens, and the fact that he is the current world champion, right? Like aside from numbers, total, like you gotta give him that. And yeah, it's just crazy. So that's my number 5.
Sebastian, who do you have at 5?
5, I have Addy. Now, when I put together this list, a lot of guys were still messing around in the USAPL last year, and it kind of throws off a lot of the direct head-to-head competition. So I did most everything off of formulas. I know you can take it or leave it when it comes to formulas. No, I mean, I'm the same way. I think I could take it. I think formulas are like a lot like capitalism. You know, it's the worst best system. It's the same thing. You know, it's the best. You know, it's not the best, but it's better than everything else. So I think that's a similar thing with formulas. We just have to use what we're given to kind of compare people across federation and cross gender and weight classes, etc. But I am very excited. I think, of the 83s, we talk about potential. I mean, it'll be fun to watch.
Okay. At my number 5, I also have an 83. I got Joe Bornstein. Now I know Matt is not gonna like this.
You just shot me in the gut, dude.
Yeah.
What, too low? Ranked him too low or what?
Nice. He's not even on the list. Respect.
Not even on the list?
He's not even.
He's the best 83 in the world.
No, he's not. He's not even on the list.
Oh man, I can't wait to talk about this.
He didn't do Worlds or Sheffield, so he can't be on Matt's list.
So, yeah.
He got seduced by the trap of the USAPL. That's not his fault.
Wait, okay,
he sold up the river.
Sebastian,
we'll get to it.
No, so I know this by Matt's metrics. This would obviously not be. He didn't do Worlds, didn't do Sheffield. To me, it's purely he put up the biggest total of an 83 ever, and while it wasn't a Worlds or Sheffield, he still did it at a meet with some of the top 83s ever. I mean, he did it against Delaney Wallace, 2-time world champion. He did it against Chris Perez, Angelo Fortino. There were 3 other 83s at that meet. He totaled over, I believe, 835. So he had head-to-head.
And Daniel Clements on the SBD percentage formula.
Right. But I'm saying, I'm just talking about like the just
yeah. Of course. I had to say that. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that was big. That was big.
No, it is. But either way, so my point is like, of course, this was the single hardest person on this list for me to rank. I was including them regardless because no matter how my criteria was, he put up the biggest total in the most competitive class in the world. And I didn't know where to put him, but I was going to put him on.
Arguably.
And
arguably the most competitive class.
Okay, correct. Arguably the most competitive class. But I think going forward,
objectively the most competitive class. I can't.
Whatever.
There's not even one that comes to mind.
Semantics, okay.
Seabass is like not on. Where are you, bro?
Point is, I'm judging it off one performance where he put up insane performance, and I thought that was enough where, to me, he was top 5. Hopefully, we get to see him where he should be next year, and if he does what I'm thinking, he'll be top 5, but not 5. Anyways, on to number 4.
Can I go? Can I start?
Yeah, go, Marcel.
Matt, I'm sorry, bro. I'm about to gut you even harder, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. But remember, this is my subjective list. This is my original OG. My number 4 is Gustav.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah, so obviously, he won Sheffield, he won Worlds, and that objectively should have him, higher, right? But unfortunately, like I said, this list is subjective. It is not so much that he didn't do enough. It's that my top 3, my reasons are very biased and very personal. And that's all it comes down to. I mean, Gustav is an animal. I mean, the fact that he came in, and totaled what he did at Sheffield, and then came in at Worlds. And I will state this: I don't think this is stated. Like people talk about it, but I don't think they really grasp it. Like just how competitive, how close the 93s truly were. I mean, to go against Keiko, right? Who, what does Ryan always say? I think Ryan always calls Keiko like the most decorated 93 or whatever phrase he uses for him, right? To manage that. And then to at Worlds battle against Petrie, Emil, and it literally coming down to that final deadlift, right? That's huge. Can't be stated enough, like that, that he's a dog in regards to that. But I have three people I have to put above him, unfortunately. So yeah.
Okay. Sebastian.
Who do you have? Wait, four? Four, I have. Can I just? I still don't know exactly how to pronounce it. I'm gonna go for a really bad one. KJL. There you go.
Oh,
well,
clip that. No, I know how to pronounce it. I just wanted to join the club.
Put some extra American sauce on.
Yeah, I want to be American. Kale. I got kale in there. I have a number 4. I mean, I was very heavily data driven and with the formulas again. And, he would have been the best lifter at Worlds had Austin Perkins not been an absolute animal. So I have a number 4.
Okay. Big body.
For number 4, I have Jurens. Jurens is, first of all, anyone that knows powerlifting knows that the moment that took place on the world stage with Jurens beating Russ was a special moment for the sport, and that's like an understatement. The way that the moments were built up to, I actually went back and reviewed film. I watched this a couple times coming into this. I watched it a lot when it happened. And it was just so special because, again, Russ, he's beaten Brett Gibbs. Brett Gibbs was one of the forces in the sport for such a long time. For people that don't have context, or all you young bucks out there that haven't been in the game long enough. And, even before I actually fully got into powerlifting, like back in like 2010, 2011, I'm watching Joe and Matt and all these great coaches do their thing on the world stage before powerlifting's ever gotten to the level that it's at today. I remember when Jurens was in the world tournaments, and I remember he would be in the B groups and he would just keep working and chipping away, and he keep coming back. And I think he has like something like, he's been at the world championships now 5 or 6 times, something in that range. And to see him stick with it, keep working, make mistakes, take his losses, come back every year, do the Euros meets, just chip away. And it's just like, it is, I'm going to say the same sentiment for other lifters up on the top of my list, higher spots. It's really special when you don't give up, when you don't quit, when you keep your passion. The guy's a father. He's got a full-time job. I believe he has a wife. And, with all those things, no excuses. And on the day, I have him somewhere around an increase on his deadlift of like 20 plus keys. 20 plus keys from Euros to Worlds. And for him to come out and to defeat Russ, give him his second loss ever, which literally he's the only person other than Brett Gibbs to do that. So statistically, that's impressive to me. And he came in on the day, he weighed in at 82.65, locked in a 310 squat, pretty smooth, 185 bench, pretty smooth, and a 350 deadlift, locked in 845 at the time, which was a world record, 117.22 GL as well. It's impressive, man. It's I can't give him enough praise for the resilience, the persistence, staying locked in, coming in and beating Russ. That was his moment. That will forever be a moment in the sport. And I think that just as many times as I've seen people on my team have great successes, I also have to give flowers, and I have to make sure I give respect to people that come in and do something just as special as that. I definitely believe that the 83 kg class is of the top 3 most competitive classes in the world. And for the things that Jurens was able to do, That was just is a moment in powerlifting, very special moment. And because of that, so impactful for me, I got him 4 on my list.
Okay, Matt, what do you have at 4?
Mr. Bob Matthews. And this was really like a coin flip for me between Bob and Ashton. But the reason that I gave the nod to Bob was simply just because, they both won their first world title. They both had stiff competition. It was just matter of factly how light Bob was. His body weight was so extraordinary. And the fact that he came in and, ran the table. But literally, you can make a strong argument for either of those guys being flipped. But I've got Bob as number 4.
Okay. For me, at number 4, I have 83 kilo world champion, Jordan Kingamo. I obviously have had 2 other 83s on this list, but this one's going to have to be first. He won the 83s at the World Championships, which is the most important meet, and beating the most decorated 83 of all time in Russell Orhe. Obviously, he didn't put up as high of a total as some of these other ones mentioned later. I believe he totaled, what was it, 840, I think 845. But like we all saw, he could have told more if he needed. And just the breakout out of, I wouldn't say out of nowhere, obviously. We all know who Jordan is. He's been like a podium threat for the last bunch of years. But coming from someone who I honestly, I thought he would be in the battle, just the battle for second. I thought it would be a good battle for second. I didn't see this coming at all. And he shocked the world. I think nobody saw it coming. So to me, that was extremely impressive. And he is number 4 on my list. Okay, let's top 3. Who should we start with? Let's Marcellus, we can start with you.
My number 3 over Gustav is Joseph Bornstein.
Oh,
I told you, Matt. I told you we're getting real subjective here, man. Listen, first of all, highest total in the weight class. And look, I can understand if it was just some random local meet, right? But it was the SBD Raleigh meet. I was there at the meet. Thought the standards were very on point. So when he put up that 865, well, let me go further back. So first of all, because there's a lot of things that go into it outside of just, Worlds in Sheffield for me with my subjective list. So him winning the Pro Series finale early in the year at the Arnold in March, right, as a 70, 75, 74, the total he put up there, not even totally healthy. And then obviously he hurt his back pretty bad at junior nationals to then turn around so quickly, come into the SBD Raleigh meet and, stand on what he said that, 860 won't be enough, and then hit the 865 and to allow himself to learn from junior nationals where he got called for depth, where a lot of people said that was questionable, that it shouldn't have been. But instead of complaining about it, to just be like, okay, I'm just going to sink it even further and, meet the standard the way he needed to across all 3 to hit that total is just crazy. And then, of course, and I'm so glad this happened. I'm so glad this happened before we record this podcast because originally I didn't know I was going to be able to use it, but the fact that he just put up 900 kg in training, I get it. I know it's not a platform. It's not the big bro. That is sickening. That is sickening. 900 kg as 83 under any circumstances is wild to me. So yeah, and it's just one of those things where, like I said, if I was being objective, it's different. But subjectively, when I look at what Gustav did, it's like, okay, that's cool. But when I see what Borstein does, it moves me. It just moves me differently, man. So that's my number 3. And also the fact that, like I said, so far the list, my objective list has been very met up very well with Matt's. But I was like, when we get to this point, it's I'm gonna disappoint Matt heavily.
I still love you, brother. I still love you.
I appreciate it, man.
Sebastian, who do you got?
I think right now, to me, he's one of the most impressive on the planet.
Yeah, I also have Joe at number 3. You can say what you want about different federations and stuff. It's not his fault. He was sold up the river. I don't blame him for wanting to make some money in the USAPL. So take their money and run.
Big Body?
Okay, so battles are incredibly important for me. And I know that They are for Matt. And
Sir.
for me, I have to say that you could argue if you counted all the top 66 kg lifters in the world, all of the top 66 kg lifters just in America, it is arguably just as lethal as the 83s and the 93s.
Yeah.
And this just stuck out so much for me, not only because myself and a young man, Austin Nikolai, are working to chase something this impactful for us. And as you know, we've already been in some big battles already, but just to see these guys do it on this stage and to see the battle come down to something that I don't think we've ever seen happen in this sport. And Matt, you've been around for a long time, and I'm sure that this has to have been one of the first times you've seen a battle come down to everyone tying the same total with all the variables, with all the gameplay, the strategy, the thought process in the moment. And it comes down to a 707.5 kg total amongst the whole podium. And you're talking about names like Panna, Jonathan Garcia, Joe Jordan was there. And we see how Joe Jordan is looking now. Kyoto, just at the very end of 2025, put up 725 at Asians. So it's like, Alexander Erickson, we know of him, and he I believe he coaches Gustav, right? So it's like there's some names in there, that you just can't overlook. And obviously the top three was the most competitive totals put up on that day. The way that Kazmasan came in, as I like to call him, K-San, this guy first of all, he's an awesome guy. He's a great human being, very gentle, very kind, but at the same time, he's a killer as a lifter. And I have so much respect for what that battle was, the moment it was. And it was really hard because I was considering okay, Jurgens and everything that he did, and he defeated, that giant, but then Ina was just not. Ina's still working, and Ina can get there, but it wasn't as competitive. It just wasn't as competitive as what the 66s had to go through. So for me, it was the tightest battle of the year, and I had to put it in the top three for me. K-San definitely someone that I don't overlook. I have a lot of respect for him. So yeah, I got Kazman-san. I'm gonna run his work real quick. Weighed in at 65.3, put up a 255 squat, 155 bench, 297.5 deadlift to seal the deal. 8 for 9 performance, 707.5 kg total in that performance at Open Worlds, and 110.91 GL for that day. So I have Kazman-san number 3 on my list.
Okay. Matt, who do you have at number 3?
Number 3, I've got Austin Perkins. And the reason, again, I've got logic to this. The reason that he's ranked 3rd is because he didn't compete as many times as my 3rd competitor. So, but the 318 kilo squat that he did at Nationals, I mean, at that body weight is just mind blowing. I mean, that puts him in a category unlike no other. Worlds, he did what he needed to do, hit a world record squat. At Worlds, weighing in really light, didn't weigh in that light on purpose. World record total. And oh, by the way, hit best lifter. And so, Austin is amazing. And I think we're going to see something really big from him at Sheffield. Looking forward to it. But I've got Austin number 3.
Okay. For me at number 3, this was a tough decision. I was considering anywhere in the top 3. And end of the day, I put him at 3 is Gustav Hedlund. He had a phenomenal year this year, of course, winning Sheffield and then coming back and winning Worlds. The reason I had him a little lower, just at the end of the day, is his formulas are significantly behind the people I have at top 2. The reason why I had him this high, because the formulas are lower, is just if you look at who he beat this year. At Sheffield, forget about beating everyone at Sheffield. Because the truth is, I was thinking about it, and the entire Sheffield roster basically didn't make my top 10. But what I do care about specifically is who he beat heads up, the 93. He beat Jonathan Keiko. He beat the greatest 93 ever. He beat Gavin Adams, the current 93 world record holder. And then he comes back to Worlds and then follows that up with beating Emil Krasov, insane lifter, and Brandon Petrie. So he didn't just beat those four lifters. He beat those four lifters. He beat two lifters and then two. He had two insane performances against the best 93s in the world. And for me, that puts him in my top three, even though by like formula and those metrics, he would rank lower. Let's move to our number two. Matt, you want to start us off?
Yep, number two, I've got Jurrens Kagamo. And the reason that I've got him above Austin is he competed more. He went to Euros, which we've already said is an unbelievable championship, regardless of what Sebastian thinks.
Who's we? Who's we?
Well, that's what I mean, because
You're the one who said that.
Well, it's a big deal. Let me tell you, it's a huge deal because and I know we're removing heavy hitters like the Americans, obviously some New Zealanders and some Canadians, but as I said, for a regional meet, it is the best regional meet in the world. And so for that reason, because that region is so densely populated with powerlifting talent, Jurrens won Euros, and that's a really big deal. And then he won Worlds in what you all have already said. I have nothing to add to that. In arguably the single greatest powerlifting upset of all time, against arguably one of, if not powerlifting's most significant character. So, I mean, yeah, for me, it's Jurrens. And also, I've been privy to a lot of the stuff that he's doing behind the scenes. His Sheffield performance is good. He's strong. He's making progress. So, and as I know, Russ is, and as I know, Ade is, and that's and Tim Monagatti as well. Let's not forget Tim. So that's going to be an exciting battle forthcoming, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Okay. Big Body, who do you got at number two?
I'm going to give a shout out to my man, Austin Perkins. For me, usually the battles, the competition level, doing it on the world stage, all those things are super duper important, but very high on my criteria list. But Austin Perkins is so far above the rest. He's so far above the rest that I just couldn't leave him off this list. I had him in the top three. He really went up and down.
Wait, you were considering leaving him off the list?
No. I had him in third, I had him in second, I had him in first. It just kept rotating and rotating and rotating. Yeah. But he just had this was the 2024 was the year that in 2023 we saw where he was going and we're like, okay, it's coming. And then he did it finally in 2024. And it's just it was such an impressive performance. He opened up all his squats were world records: 290, 305.5, 311. Doing that he weighed in at 72.75, which is crazy. He benched 200. He hits even larger benches in training. And then 325 to finish off with his deadlift, 836 world record total, and a 123.82 GL. His dots is something insane. It's over 600, right? It's like 606 or something like that.
Yeah, it's silly.
Yeah, it's like I think it's fair to say that Austin Perkins is literally he's in his own echelon within this class. And he has to be top three lifters of 2024 for me. There's no one that's really no one's given him a battle yet. I want to see guys like Ilya and Elliot Sykes, and hopefully working with some of my 74s to hopefully in a couple years get to that level. But right now, there's nobody next to him. I mean, Shell is an impressive guy, and he's still lost by over 23 keys. And I think that's a comfortable margin. So yeah, I have Austin Perkins, number two, second best powerlifter for 2024.
All right, Sebastian, who do you got?
Number two, I got Bob. Pretty chalky there. Ranked number two by formula, world champion. That's basically it. Statistics and championships. I have really not much to say other than that. Would love to see him at Sheffield, but it is what it is.
Marcellus?
Bob is also my number two pick. For a few reasons. One, just going into nationals, right? At the time that he did anyway, was he had the highest drug tested 110 kg total ever, second highest drug tested 120, and then at that meet he tied the unofficial 120 kg world record total at Powerlifting American Nationals, and of course did that being obviously basically still like a 105. And then at Worlds, and fun fact, because even him being as light as he was, even though his whole series was don't get clapped by 105, he wasn't trying to be that light. Before his flight, he was like 107, 108, but then he's very consistent with his eating. He couldn't be as consistent with it with the travel, blah blah. So he dropped weight. But the fact that like Big Body already pointed out, the fact that he basically, I mean, not he beat 120s as a 105, like to do that and execute so flawlessly, like perfect day, despite weighing in lighter than what he expected to, not even necessarily feeling as good as what we were necessarily hoping for him to be able to come in and do that is to me like just the very definition of like dominance. Like I'm a lighter male than you. I'm a smaller individual, and I came in and I wrecked all of them. Like that for like I said, when I'm going based off subjectively and what moves me, that moves me. You know what I mean? And obviously just being Bob's coach, I know how hard he works. I know the effort he puts into make sure everything's 100% locked in, leave no stone unturned type of vibe. So yeah, Bob is my number two. I think the numbers and the stats speak for themselves.
Okay, so for my number two, I also have Bob. Yeah, I mean, you said it. Don't get clapped by 105. I mean, it's phenomenal. Obviously, he didn't break the 120 records set by Dennis Cornelius, but he weighed in literally at whatever it was, 105.9 or something. It was actually 105. The battle looked closer than it was. He ended up only winning by like 12 kilos or something in hours, but like he was in control the entire time. Put up a dominant performance. It was 970, I believe. Yeah, 970 at Worlds. He did 978.5 at Nats. I mean, if he was a 105, he would be the 1A, 1B with Aspen, two best in the world. He's at 120, which makes it very interesting because, of course, Rondell, who we haven't really discussed, when he does come over, Bob will need some work to keep up with him. So he's in this weird spot where he's the best in the class that he's competing in, which is not his actual weight class, but is also missing the best lifter in that weight class. So it's a whole weird situation. But like all you need to do is look at any formula. I mean, he dots like I think 587. He's closing in on like a 600 dots. He had the second highest lift score. I mean, he's just an insane lifter. And echoing what I forgot who said before, I would love to have seen him at Sheffield at 105, at 120. I don't care, just to get to see him compete, especially in a meet where like you're supposed to go all out. Like that just would have been so much fun. But yeah, he's my number two lifter. Let's move on to our number one lifters. Marcellus, start us off.
My number one lifter is Austin Perkins. I mean, for me, it's very simple. It's one of these things. And in truth, like, with my objective list, he could have been number one or number two. But the reason why with this list, he's number one is the fact that let's say I were to compare to Gustav, right? Who did win Sheffield and won Worlds, whereas Austin, just won Worlds. The fact is, Gustav, while being in those tight battles, and I do very much value the competition, it's just more fun, more entertaining to watch. The fact that Austin is just so far ahead, like what he did, and like kind of like obviously, like, it's even crazier with Sunita, right? But when Austin first squatted what he did at nationals, it's like it was wild. Like it was just such a crazy thing to see, not just him move that type of weight at that body weight, but the speed and how relatively effortless it looked when he did it, right? So that's already crazy impressive. And then of course we can look at like, the formulas, dots, IPF, all that good stuff, and just like how dominant he is in that aspect. And then of course doing all this coming back from like, the hernia surgery and all that kind of stuff, and at one point not being sure if he's going to be able to come back at all. But I think for Austin just to be as dominant as he is, it's not the fact that he's just one that he has a dots, but he's so dominant that it's such a huge gap because keep in mind, KJ is not a weak lifter. You know what I mean? Like KJ is strong, man, and the fact that he pushed the world record total up before Worlds, and then despite that, Austin still did what he needed to do. I thought that was just very very impressive. I think it's easy when it's your first Worlds, and especially like Austin still being relatively younger, you can really let that pressure kind of get to you. And when people are telling you, oh, you're only going to have to total such and such, but then KJ boosts it up even more, and it's like, oh crap! Like a lot of people, they fold, they let every little thing get in their head. And Austin came in, executed, did his thing. I mean, Matt was back there with him in the back room, so he can probably speak more to like what his demeanor mentality was. But I just knowing Austin for as long as I have and seeing him go from being this like just constant ball of energy that can't seem to sit still ever to just learning how to kind of focus himself up and execute when he needs to. He's my number one pick.
Okay, yeah, I'll go next. I mean, my number one pick is also Austin. I was actually talking about this before we started, and what I was saying, we were having a conversation. I was talking to somebody about Austin and versus like Gustav, right? And Gustav obviously phenomenal, had two amazing battles, won them both. But then like my thought was like, how can I penalize a lifter for being so good that there is nobody to give him a great battle? I mean, Austin is just I mean, the only person who could compete with him is Peak Taylor, who's now going to be 83. Like there is nobody on his level right now. So it's like I can't penalize him for that. End of the day is best lifter our world, highest on all the formulas, won the world championship, and to me that's enough for him to be my number one lifter of 2024. Matt?
Gustav Hedlund. It's easy. I mean, I value winning over metrics, to be honest with you. And he won again. This goes back to my opening statement at the beginning. If we can all agree, and I think we all did, Sebastian's rolling his eyes. I think we all agreed that most elite level drug tested lifters aspire to win a world championships and qualify for Sheffield. Why? Because then you can earn money and then you can break world records and be, incentivize world record breaking. Well, Gustav did that. And I think he's penalized just because of his personality, and he's stoic and he's not as flamboyant as a lot of other people. And so that for those reasons, he's not out in the stream of consciousness, but he goes out there, he executes like a pro against a murderer's row of competition, and he won unquestionably the two most important and significant meets of the year until we have World Games, which is going to be super significant because that's a once every 4 years. Will it aggregate as many eyeballs as Sheffield? No, I don't think it will, because you know what I mean? But at the end of a powerlifting career, when you go back and ask people, a lot of people are like, oh, you won the Sheffield. Like, what is Sheffield? They don't even understand. But you know what I mean? When you explain what World Games is, though, it's our Olympics. It's the Olympics for the non-Olympic sports. That'll mean more in terms of legacy, in my opinion, winning a World Games than winning a Sheffield, which is an all-star game. It's a all-star game that incentivizes swinging for the fences because there's no consequences for missing. But again, he won the two most significant meets of the year, the World Championships and Sheffield. And I value winning in head-to-head matchups and battles over anything else, over dots or any of these other silly formulae. And so that's why I've got him first. For like I said, for a lot of the same reasons that I have Agata first. I held true to my data, to my objective, metrics, and Gustav is my number one lifter of 2024.
Okay, big body.
Yeah. Matt said a lot of what I agree with. Winning is super duper important for me. I think like the reason why you do things is to prove that you're the best. And I think that winning represents that, right? And how many times you're able to do that, especially with how the longer you stay at the top, how hard it is to stay at the top. And with all that comes with that. And in the 93s, that's one of the top classes. And if we talk about all those hitters again, right? We talk about Emil Krastev was like the favorite going into Worlds. In my opinion, I think he was the favorite. He what you watched his training, he put up the 906 in training, and everyone was like raving about that around the community. You had Brandon Petrie, who is also another certain bona fide hitter. You know, and then with Gustav also having the year that he had where he beat the most decorated 93. Some would say arguably the best 93 there. I think his resume speaks for that. And he beat him, right? And I think one of the things that hasn't been said yet is, so I was on the platform with Gustav, the warm-up in the back rooms, and I had the opportunity to coach and handle Kalle Johansson. And, you know, I was with the Swedes, and it was pretty fun. And, you know, he was very calm. He was very respectful. He was talking. He was making jokes. And he knew the day that he had. You know, I know some other lifters that they're like, don't talk to me, or I got to focus, or they're just so skittish, right? Gustav's been in this game for, I believe, close to a decade, if not a decade, at least competing for that long. And I've watched him not be the best 93 kg lifter for that time. And in 2024, he had such an impactful year where he had a 4% chance, according to the statistics that were given, I believe by SBD, of winning the SBD Sheffield meet. And that's a meet where you have multiple world champions and runner-ups all on that same platform. And for Gustav Hedlund to have for people that's really big on metrics, right? I think you have to be, right? If you look at it, if you ask somebody, what's my chances of winning today? And they say, you got a 4% chance of winning. Like, so you're saying there's a chance. So like, why even try, right? But he believed in himself. And this is that element I talk about, being ready to win. And that's so important for me. And you could have just said, oh, Jesus Olivares is here. He's the strongest guy in the world. He's going to blast. He's a super heavyweight. There's no cap to how much he can eat and recover. He's just going to come in here and he's going to win, right? He won last year. No, Gustav didn't think of that. Gustav was, I'm going to do my best. And if there's an opportunity to win, I'm going to be ready to win. And he did that. You know, with Delaney and Kaiko also being world champions and him reigning supreme on top of them and the rest of the lifters that day, Gustav just put up an incredible performance. Comes back to relatively the same scenario with these decorated 93s, was ready to win again. And, you know, the work he did on that day for Worlds was 92.5. He weighed in at 327.5 squat, huge squat, 212.5 second attempt. And I think he didn't get his third of 217.5 because he jumped the command, or he jumped a call, I believe. And then he registered a 355 deadlift to seal the deal with 895, 117.39 GL. I think for me, it's when you win the most two significant meets of the year, and this is not like, again, subjective. I'm trying to be as objective as possible, but also at least for these last 8 spots on the list. But you could interchange, you know, Perkins. You could even make a case for Bob. But for me, you could put Gustav lower. But for me, like, you know, Perkins, for me, suffers in 2024 simply because he wasn't in Sheffield. What would have happened? I have questions. Right. What happens if he's in Sheffield? You know what I mean? If he wins that and wins Worlds, it's like, I'm not even, Gustav's probably 2 and Perkins is 1 for me. But yeah, Gustav had a phenomenal year, breakout year, explosive year. And it just like as Marcel says, it moves me. And because of that, I got to put Gustav there. So, yeah, I mean, but honestly, congratulations to this entire list, all the lifters. And I'm sure we're going to get to our, after Seabass or whoever else needs to speak, we're going to get to our honorable mentions.
Sebastian?
Yeah, there's only one person who can possibly be the best lifter in the world, and that's Austin Perkins. He won everything that was put in front of him. He won Nats. He won Worlds. He was the best lifter at Worlds. He's the best by formula. There's nothing that he's missing. He did everything he possibly could have. He did his best. The Gustav argument holds absolutely no water. Yeah, he won Sheffield, but 6 of the people,
Bro,
six of the people ranked over him.
Chris just walked out
at Sheffield because
holds no water, bro.
They're not even able. 6 people ranked over him were not even able to compete at Sheffield because they were in another federation. Had everyone been unified, it would have been fine.
What time is it? Lunchtime?
Percentage of the world record. It's not based on even a formula that's used to determine who the best lifter is. We would never, ever consider someone to be the NFL MVP who's ranked 12th statistically. We would never do that ever. Who's ranked 3rd in their weight class. We would never consider that ever. You're considering that because he won the All-Star meet, which didn't even have all the best athletes. That's insane. I don't even have him on my list because I'm so mad about it. But you can put him on the list. He's a 5 or a 6 on the list. You're taking a meet that has a criteria that's actually pretty good when you talk about creating parity, but it's not great for determining who's the best lifter on the planet is.
I love the contrast of Big Body being like, yeah, I picked Gustav, but you know what? I can see why you pick Austin. Like, it makes sense. And Sebastian's like, yeah, Gustav shouldn't even be on this list.
Look, I'll tell you this: in 2025, if Perkins, it's unanimous as Perkins can recreate what Gustav did. I don't like you guys. You will see how hard this Sheffield is. You will see how hard the level of difficulty. It is not the same as other meets, and I know that Matt can attest to that.
Dude, this is the last time we're ever going to talk about Gustav. This will be the last podcast. Maybe we'll talk.
I hope he hears that. I hope he hears that
again. He's never going to get spoken about again. This is it.
I hope he hears that.
This is not the norma. This is the song for Gustav. You'll talk about him a little bit at the Sheffield preview. He's going to go to Worlds. He's going to get beat by Petrie or whoever comes out of the U.S. Petrie's going to have a better day. He's going to get beat. And then we're never going to talk about him ever
again. If Gustav has one significant performance this year, you're not going to look too good.
That's fine. It's not going to happen.
Marcellus, you know why he's not on his list? He's probably not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
He didn't do his best.
I'd like to be better if I actually thought that you didn't believe he should be top 10. I think you're just trying to just like be argumentative.
No,
like,
for everyone, I want to put this into context. He put Elliot Sykes. He put Elliot Sykes over Gustav. I love Elliot. Elliot is my boy.
Hold on. If we're just
Elliot's on the list, Gustav is not. Win Sheffield, win Worlds, not on the list.
I did this exercise. We were just doing open people and we weren't giving anyone buffs for age or anything, he would be a 6 or a 7. He would be slightly above Jurens, below Addy. Maybe below Jurens on my list.
That's amazing.
That's hilarious.
We needed that. We needed that.
Are we doing honorable mentions?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. My 2 honorable mentions off the top of my head is Rondell. Kind of like we talked about briefly before we started. The only reason he's on the list and not like the top 3 is because he didn't actually get to compete in 2024. Right. I feel like you take anything he's done in training, you could take his best doubles he's done in training and have him hit that on the platform. And that's already huge. And I just think what I like about Rondell is, yes, the objective sheer amount of weight he lifts, right? Like it's not as much as Jesus, right? But like just the amount of weight he lifts, yet to still be able to have like a 600 plus dots as a heavier weight class. That is so impressive to me because for a long time, the narrative is, oh, a heavier weight class will never be like the best dots. And I think Rondell could potentially do that someday. So that's huge. And then, like I said, he wasn't on my subjective list or my objective list this time around, but Kjo, honorable mention for sure. You know, pushing the total up. Very excited to see what he does in Sheffield, especially if he does end up making weight, going down a weight class. That'll be interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, I would just say my honorable mentions are the 2 world champions who I didn't include on this list. Obviously, Wasker and Kassensen. Obviously, there's a very good case for you guys to be on this list. You guys are on, I think, all the other lists. Yeah, I mean, you both had great years. You won your first. They both won their. Wasker won a second, and Kassensen won his first world championship this year. But Wasker got his first Sheffield Invitation. So we're going to get to see them both compete at Sheffield in like a month. So looking forward to seeing that. And those are my only 2 honorable mentions because everyone else, I think those are the only 2 who I didn't put on my list who maybe deserve to be on my list. Matt, you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I have 6 honorable mentions, and so and then I'll get to this Joe Bornstein piece because he comes in 5th out of 6th. Okay, so again, this is all objective metrics based. This is, I think about these things objectively, rationally, logically. Anatoly would be my number 11th. He came in 8th at Sheffield. He squatted a world record. He has the world record total, and he came in 2nd to Ashton, who's on the list. Penna would be next, 5th at Sheffield, 3rd at Worlds, in arguably the greatest battle we've ever seen. Tim Madigatti would be next, 6th at Sheffield the year before, and then 3rd at Worlds. Shell Backlund would come right after that, 2nd at Worlds, 815 kilos at the Arnold. And then we get to the interesting case of Mr. Bornstein. And everybody listening to this is going to call me a hater, and I am not a hater. I have nothing but good things to say about him. I like Joe a lot. I met him in Austin. We had a very brief exchange in the warm-up room. It was all positive. I think he's, on all accounts, from everything I've seen, a wonderful human being and a mercurial talent. This guy is incredible. But a lot of people are suffering from recency bias and these Instagram reels. Okay, he's competed 16 times, 9 of which have been in Florida. Sebastian, let's say that again. 9 of which have been in Florida. Okay.
Is there a Robert Keller joke somewhere in there?
No, there's not a Keller joke. So now the furthest he's had to travel, and I'm not saying, look, this is not to say that he's not going to perform well if and when given the opportunity, or I should say earns the opportunity to go to an international meet, but he's never competed internationally, right? And again, I'm not saying he's not going to rise. So Joe, if you're listening to this, I'm not shooting you down, brother. I'm speaking facts right now. You've only competed domestically. Yes, you won the Arnold Pro Series, you won the SPD Rally, and you out-totaled those other 83 kilos in Chris Perez and Delaney Wallace and Angelo Fortino, another American murderer's row, and you have the unofficial world record, right? But you're getting credit for gym lifts done on Instagram. You're getting all this street cred. You're going to have to do it at the international level to get on this list. You have no business being in the top 10 list, in my opinion, when, again, the 2 most important meets of the year we've established and we've all agreed on it are World Championship and Sheffield, and you've not been to either. So for that reason, that's why I have him as my 11, 12, 13, 15th best lifter. And then after that, I would have Rondell, of course, for all the same reasons that you guys have said, and I love Rondell, but he did not compete in 2024. So the fact that you've done all this stuff in the gym, that's fantastic. The whole entire world is waiting with bated breath for you to get back and get on the platform. And he's been a victim of this garbage politics and stuff. So we all want him back. We want to see him. He deserves to be there. But again, because he didn't compete, I just can't put him in my top 10 list. There's just no way. So again, Joe, I love you. There is no disrespect there. I'm not throwing shade on you. You're just going to have, if you want to be considered as one of the best lifters in the top 10, you've got to do it on an international platform against.
Wait, hold on. We all already consider him. You're the only outlier here. Everyone considers him one of the best. Everyone has him on our list. No objective person, even if you're in another country, goes, yeah, Joe Bornstein isn't one of the best male powerlifters in the world.
He is. He's just not in the top 10.
Oh, there's no way. No one. And Cliff is definitely better than Joe. Yeah.
And I gave you the objective reasons why he's not in the top 10. And so again, I held true to my.
You held true to your criteria based off objective numbers, metrics that you laid out. No, straight up. And I mean, I think the good thing is I talk to Joe very constantly. He would be the first to agree in the sense of like, hey, until I do it, like until I win nationals, until I go to worlds and stuff like that, he'd be the first to admit that anyway. So
yeah, he knows. Look, and look, he's got to get out of America first. He's going to have to do it at PA Nationals, right? And right, he's totaled 900 in the gym. Did he do all that in the same day? Was that all done on the?
Yeah,
okay, that was good. Okay, good. So that's great. And I'm assuming he's not a guy that has to cut a lot of body weight, if at all. So he's on body weight, and those minus the bench, the command was a little quick. The pause on the most recent one, right? But look, he's clearly a tip of the spear athlete, and we're all looking forward, presumably, to seeing him rise to that level. But he's got to get out of the United States first, and then travel and come to Worlds, and we'll see. So, yeah. And to Joe's point, and he has even admitted this in podcasts when he's been interviewed. When you take him and you throw in Russ and you throw in even Delaney's there, and you throw in Ade and you throw in Jurgens, you're talking one attempt, right? Any of them misses an attempt, and you could throw, you know what I mean? Shuffle the deck, shuffle the cards, and you have a different winner. So it comes down to strategy and attempt selection and execution, and that's going to be huge. And we'll see.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So for my honorable mention, again, I have Shell, Rondell, Ade, Ornstein, Teamer. I'll run through them really quick. Shell, he's got the coefficient, but he does not have a total that's put on a platform that is larger than what the best in his class has done. And there was a moment where Russ had that. So that would warrant why I have that. Kaiko was Sheffield. He's decorated. He was 10th on my list. I couldn't put those guys above Waskar. I had Russ because you could make an argument with coefficients for the coefficient people. And that's with him having his worst performance. So Shell, incredibly decorated. He's one of the best powerlifters of all time, in my opinion. I have tremendous respect for him. Rondell, it kills me because, like, even now in this year, 2025, in January, Trinidadian Nationals is going to be, I guess there's like a discrepancy that's going to hold him out, and we have to wait again. And it's like, it's killing me. And all this is going to do is make Rondell look. This is why I love this, right? And for Marcellus being here, because just as Rondell or just as Bob is like, the sentiments with Bob, and he's like, oh, the disrespect, or they put me on the poster, and I love that, right? Or like Rondell's like, how dare you? You think that you're on my level? You think at my best you're on my level? Well, the beautiful thing about it is that we just have more time for these guys to be more angry and build up, and we're going to get to see one of the craziest battles. And it makes me mad because as a fan of powerlifting over a decade, like, I have to wait again. But Rondell, like, I have questions, right? What happens in the 120s if Rondell was there, right? And yeah, I can make numbers arguments, whatever. But yeah, Rondell, Ade, and Borenstein, I kind of hold them in the same field. Yes, Ade was he performed that in Malta, which is not as far of a flight as what Borenstein would have had to have made. Borenstein never had any international travel. He put up the 861, probably could have done more. There was some discrepancy with execution, but he locked in the 861 for Ade. Borenstein, you come in as a 21 junior young gun. You beat a two-time world champion in Delaney. You beat Angelo. You beat Chris Perez. And then you even beat off the SBD formula with the percentage base for the totals, right? You beat a killer in Daniel Clements, right? And there's other great lifters, not to forget to mention or anything, but it's a long list. Anyways, as a 21-year-old to do that, phenomenal performance. But again, I agree completely. I don't have Borenstein on my top 10 because you just simply weren't on the world stage. You just simply weren't at Sheffield. And for me, it's like, I cannot discredit those other lifters that did do more on larger stages with more competition on the significant level of those stages. Is this to say that Ade and Borenstein aren't going to be killers this year? They absolutely are. I'm expecting them to all be on the biggest platform stages and put up the craziest totals. Timur, honorable mention because he pushed the best and the strongest man on the world. He pushed him. You know what I mean? And he wasn't far away. And he also did it as a junior. And he also broke a record for the deadlift. So, I have high regards for all these lifters. This is not a knock on anyone. I don't discredit none of them, nor do I overlook any of them. I think that Ade, Borenstein, you said it right. Jurgens, Russ, and Delaney are the top 5 83s right now, in my opinion. And I believe that Joe Borenstein certainly has incredible momentum. I think the battle of the youngest guys, we're looking at Borenstein and Ade, right? And right now, it's like the old heads have to hold on to it, right? The uncles, right? The unks, team unks. For the 30-year-olds and above, they got to hold on. So yeah, I'm excited for that battle. It's no shade to none of them. Love all these lifters, and those are my honorable mentions.
Sebastian?
The only one I have on here is Gavin, and that's just because he has the world record in the 93. But missing weight is obviously not warranting anything except a mention. Now I know Matt likes that one. Matt, you're big on the cannot make weight.
But he tried tried his best.
Yeah, I think you should give Ross an honorable mention for being the hardest worker in the room.
A hardest working camp setter upper.
Okay.
He can do that after Joe beats him in March, April.
Yeah, that covers the list. Anything else we want to discuss before that we held off on?
I'm at my limit, but I do want to we should regroup and do the halftime discussion on a broader. I'll bring my PowerPoints.
What? Oh, you're talking about that? Okay.
Yeah, we should do a whole pod on that. It's hard to talk in between and out of stuff. Like it could be like a 2025 preview, right?
Sure. Okay. Thank you everybody for coming on. Thank you everyone who's watching for watching this. This is our open ranking show, top 10 women and men.